At first, I thought they handed me the wrong YouTube channel. I couldn't believe they wanted this madman dead. Extremely intelligent, talented voice actor, about 1,000 decorations, etc., etc. It was during his tour of various Dark Souls games and old movies when things started to slip. His YouTube videos were shadow banned. Seems YouTube didn't like what he had to say. Hey guys, what's going on? It is of course me, your host Madman, and this right here, man. This is the one. In a lot of ways, this is my favorite movie. As great as Stalker is, as great as 2001, as great as Secret of Nim and Burnt Orange Heresy and all those movies are, this one, I think I've seen more than all of them combined. I mean, I don't count my childhood movies because, you know, when you're a kid you can watch something 100 times just for comfort. But in my adult life, this is probably the movie that I've rewatched the most times out of anything. And there's a lot of reasons why. And I know this movie's been analyzed to death. It's kind of like these trees. It's been burned to the ground with analysis. It's completely dead. Everything that has been said about it has been said. Or has it? I'm going to try to add my voice to that little discussion by talking about some themes and things in this movie not that haven't been talked about before, but that haven't been talked about, I don't think, in the right way before, haven't been put in the right terms. So we're going to try to do that with this movie. So, I'm probably not going to follow the dialogue too closely except for certain scenes. I'm going to do a lot of ranting in this, I can tell even now. This is going to be a very ranty commentary that does not follow the events of the movie or the dialogue as much as my other ones do, which is not much. So, you know, prepare yourself for that shit if you're actually going to watch this. This opening is, of course, perfect. By the way, if you want to do a cool experiment, play this opening and start it at the same time as the Tool song. The fuck is the song? There's an instrumental Tool song that syncs up perfectly with this, and I know I sound like those fucking cringe lord people who are like, did you know Dark Side of the Moon and Echoes and all these things sync up with 2001 and blah 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 blah? I'm not saying the whole movie does that. I'm saying just the opening scene does that. And I discovered this totally by accident. It's the Tool song, Disposition. That's the song. It's a 4-minute instrumental. If you play that song around the time that the movie starts, it fits with this scene, I think, in a way that the original song must have fit for the audience in 1979. It's sort of just a modern equivalent of that music track. And even that track, it's hard to beat. I mean, you know, The Doors, This Is the End, My Beautiful Friend, whatever the song's called. I'm not a big fan of The Doors, but I know that song just because of this. So this montage, there's not much going on here. So I'll try to blaze through some background here. There's a lot of symbolism. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You know, we have our lead character's face contrasted with a stone sculpture from a ruined society. You know, this face in the ruins. We have the ceiling fan contrasted with the helicopter blades that he's no doubt all too familiar with as a soldier. And of course, he's in his hotel room. I mean, I can gush about the dialogue. It's perfect. It's pure poetry. I'm not even going to comment beyond that. I won't worship the dialogue for the whole fucking thing. Again, I'm assuming you've seen this movie if you're watching this commentary, so I don't have to summarize it for you. If you haven't seen it, just pause the commentary and go watch the movie on your own first, because again, this is a movie you should have seen multiple times by now. And it does merit multiple viewings. My God, does it ever merit multiple viewings. So, thematically, I'm going to get this out of the way right out of the bat so I can refer to it later. This movie is about how the West functions as a culture that tells stories, and it does so at a rapid pace in various forms, and it gives the power of storytelling to everyone. And storytelling can be used for good or for evil. It's like any weapon or idea. But it's a very basic idea. We have to tell stories about reality or we go insane. as weird creatures, whatever the fuck we are. He's got a nice 33 bottle next to him. Yeah, guys, that's not obvious at all. Very good. Anyway, I've put that crap. Again, a lot of symbolism in this that I'm probably not going to comment on because it's not relevant to my main point, which is that this movie is about a character who is jaded and disaffected with being a Western subject because he has realized how his culture actually functions. And he's done so. There's many paths you can walk to realize this, and his was the path of war, of violence. He went away from his home country, and he violently encountered, literally violently, other cultures and their stories and their way of doing things. And in doing so, he realized, as if encountering the other, or basically a different viewpoint that's so different from yours that it causes you to kind of look back in shock behind you at your own culture. And it causes you to realize some shit. Now, this scene's important. I'm going to divert from my bullshit for a second. So there's blood on the bed and blood on the floor. Martin Sheen in this scene, I hope to God I'm getting the name right. He was an alcoholic for years. And it took him a long time to get clean. Long time to clean up. I think he's in his mid-30s in this movie. God, the flame reflected in his eye there. Holy shit, the shots in this. You can even watch it with sound off like I am right now, and it's just as good. Basically, he was battling with alcoholism, and in this movie he's chain smoking, he's lost a lot of weight. This scene where he punches the mirror, none of this was scripted. He basically talked with the director beforehand and said, for this scene, just based on some personal shit, do you mind if I totally break your movie by using this scene as a way to actually confront real personal shit that I'm dealing with? That's his actual blood on his hand. He actually punched the mirror, actually made his hand bleed. Kind of like a very epic video called Virtual House Arrest, where the character in that video does the same thing. It's almost like he saw this scene and was echoing exactly what it's doing. Basically, this is really Martin Sheen. He gets drunk for the scene. He drinks like a whole bunch of booze right beforehand. And he just kind of dances around and does a bunch of weird shit. I'm sure they filmed 40 minutes of footage and we only saw 5 seconds of it there, whatever it is, because I'm sure that was insane. The fact that the director was like, yeah, I'll let you do that. Whatever insurance forms he signed or didn't sign, doesn't matter. Everybody agreed and it happened, and we got that scene. And that's one of the best scenes ever filmed, in my opinion, is Martin Sheen as an actual person crying and being like, I'm such a weak alcoholic piece of shit. I regret all the years I wasted, people that I distanced myself from, all the mistakes I made, the time I wasted. That's him really doing that in that scene for you. And then, of course, the next scene, he's showing his ass, He's like, you think I'm a stranger to humiliation rituals? Why don't you take a look at my bare ass? Fuck you. I just bled all over these pillows for you. I love it. These 2 soldiers are just coming to give him his assignment. And this is just, it's all the scenes are great. I could make 10 reviews of this movie talking about different shit. So we're going to go back to what I was trying to say about the theme. So the theme of this movie is basically the West functions as a storytelling culture like all cultures do, but we do it rapidly, and we let all our subjects tell their own stories. It's an egalitarian, individualist way of creating and maintaining and spreading stories and narratives. And you can call a story or a narrative a magician's trick or a lie or an illusion if you want to use a pejorative. If you want to try to demoralize a storyteller, you say, well, all you do is tell lies. It's a gross oversimplification. It's almost like enemies in wars, no matter who they are, no matter what culture they are from, do that to each other as a form of verbal sparring. It's like 2 poncy, up-their-own-ass academics who each wrote an essay, and one of them says, my essay's better than yours. The other one goes, no, mine's better than yours. Basically, they're just saying, I wrote a story and it's better than your story, right? Warfare is aggressive storytelling by other means. There's the Mad Men quote of the video. So this movie is about that, and the reason I'm bringing this up, it may not seem connected to what you're seeing right now. I know it's hard to make the epic, ingenious, insane leaps that I'm making in my own head, so I'm going to try to break it down for you here. This movie is about our main character realizing my culture is based on lies, which is true. The only truth is everyone's lying because no one knows everything. Because nobody is God, nobody is omnipotent, everybody's telling a half-baked, half-truth at best type of story, whether they're telling themselves the story to get up in the morning and live their life, or whether they're telling a whole bunch of thralls or viewers or whatever a story to keep them entertained. It doesn't matter what the purpose of your storytelling is. Everyone's doing it all the time. We all do it all the time. So basically what's happening in this show is our main character has reached a point where he's like, I don't care about anything. I'm totally hollowed out, cynical, jaded, fucked. And he's just going through the motions at this point because all he wants to do is see more crazy shit. In his hotel room a minute ago, he was like, everyone gets everything he wants. The individualist, pampering, reward-based culture of the West will put carrots on sticks at different intervals in front of you in your life. And that's your motivation. You get what you want. Problem is, what happens if you don't know what you want? Or if you want nothing? What if you don't even want to resist desire like a Buddhist and go eat gruel for 40 years? What if you don't even want that? What if you're like our main character? He doesn't desire anything. He's lost his sense of desire in the wrong way. He's not enlightened, he's not ascended, he's just dead. He's like a Dark Souls hollow, right? And of course he makes an excuse about his hand. I was fishing on R&R, sir. I definitely didn't get totally cocked and punch a mirror and bleed all over a hotel room that 2 of your grunts saw and would have reported to you. But I'm going to give you a white lie in this scene because this entire scene is a white lie. That's what you realize when you rewatch this movie. The ending scene, it's not a spoiler, there's a bunch of people killing a cow ritualistically. This scene, they're eating beef, but it's on a nice ceramic plate with beautiful things painted on it. They're civilized. Notice that the civilized term contains the word lie. That's just me, bullshitting. There's nothing significant about that beyond coincidence, but I think it's funny in the context of this movie. Basically, civilization is layers and layers, like a phyllo pastry of lies. And our main character can see through all of this, which makes him very dangerous. Also, on top of that, he's a psychopath. He's a calm, trained, civilized psychopath who can murder people and then go back and seemingly have a normal life. Normal in quotes, normal for a soldier, He wouldn't end up on the street on heroin like a lot of veterans unfortunately do. He'd just be in hotel rooms punching mirrors. It's not as bad as being in the gutter, He's able to sort of keep it together, or at least keep the illusion going. And what I love about these shrimp, man, these are real shrimp. If you've never seen real shrimp, I've eaten them like this before. I went to Hong Kong when I was a kid, and I ate shrimp like this, and my God, it shows you how nice it is to not have to see the entire shrimp, to not have to see the truth. Instead, you see a contained, cleansed, civilized, de-signed lie. And that's what this movie is, again, about. This room's full of stuffed animals, They're sort of elevated aesthetically beyond what they are, which is smelly, diseased animals that we kill and then cook to make them edible. And then when we're done with them in the West, we sort of pay tribute to them. We say, you were a beautiful animal, in my mind, aesthetically, so I'm going to pin your head on my wall, almost as a way of saying thank you for your meat, or thank you for the sport of your death, And they're all so arrested by what Kurtz is saying, they can't even eat. Because he's saying, living in the West is like being a snail on a razor. Or he's like, that's what my life is now that I've left. He's like, I can't decide where I want to be. Do I want to live in the jungle and eat raw meat and be filled with parasites and, die at age 30? That's the truth of my body. My human meat spacesuit wants to do that. But I also have a conscious mind that wants to live in a clean metal box and eat processed protein and, play video games all day. Like that's, the duality of man. That's a very gross oversimplification. Again, I can't do 10 commentaries of this. I got to do one, and I got to do it off the cuff, or I'm not going to do it at all. That's how I roll on this channel. So remember to like and subscribe. So basically, they're tracking this guy, this general who's gone AWOL. He's gone ape. He's returned to monkey, literally. But it's an embarrassment to the military, and it's an incredible danger because the war is like a chess game. And this dude is like the fat guy at the Magic tournament that flips the table over when he loses. That's what Kurtz has done. Is he's fucked the whole game up for both sides, which is a very bad thing. The dungeon masters of reality, who are 1,000 levels above these military goons, are like, we don't like this. And they sent that message all the way down the channels until it reached our main character, who is one of the last sane assassins that this military was able to produce. Now, there's a line that's important here. The general guy here, the superior, is saying, things get confused when you confront a totally alien culture. And he says, with these natives, it must be a temptation to be God, because it would be so easy. If you come from a culture that's so steeped in storytelling, lies, illusions, tricks, glamours, whatever, you could go to a more simplistic culture and just tell them whatever they want to hear and mold them into whatever kind of drones you want. And that's what he's implying Kurtz has done. And God, Martin Sheen's staring camera in the face. It's like I'm looking at him in real time. This scene transports you into the movie. It's creepy, man. Creepy ass scene. And it doesn't go on for too long. It doesn't become corny and stupid. It's just like 2 seconds where he looks you right in the eye. The way they framed the shot, he's looking right at you, like perfectly. He's at an angle, but he's looking straight at the viewer. That is so goddamn creepy, man. That's some magic. And then this fucker, he has one line in the entire movie, and he delivers it perfectly. That's been gushed about forever, so I'm not going to talk about it. But of course, he's performing for the military guy, and they can all see it. They can all see his performance. The general here, he's licking the inside of his mouth. He looks nervously at the guy left him. He's like, this guy, we know he's performing. We know he's about to go insane, but he's able to keep his facade of sanity together. Are we sure we want to send him to find Kurtz? And then Han Solo was like, I fucked up this line because I got a fly in my throat or something, and they kept it because it makes me sound like I'm nervous. Genius to keep that take, because it makes him sound like he's kind of a sniveling bureaucrat. He's got these big Coke bottle glasses on. It's like he's the guy who does all the filing, Just enhances his character. Every choice that was made in this was a good choice. Martin Sheen almost died filming this. He had 2 heart attacks. Unironically, he had 2 while filming this. And here's the one line, terminate with extreme prejudice. They're telling him to be a judge. Ironically, they're like, we think this guy's gone off on some God complex insanity thing, and now we're asking you to be like God, and on our behalf, judge him by killing him. The executioner's the real judge. The royal family or the military or whoever telling the executioner to kill the guy, they're not judging the guy. It's the guy who swings the axe. That's why the first scene of Season 1 of Game of Thrones is good. And only the first 3 seasons of that are good, anyway. But that first scene with Eddard Stark killing the guy himself, he's the king. He's like, I'm the judge. I will do the killing myself. I will spare some other poor random guy the sin of this killing that me and everybody else important in this society want to happen. I will actually do it. And of course, that's an uncivilized culture. It's a medieval culture. In this culture, everything's compartmentalized. Everything's sort of split up into little corridors and nice little boxes and rooms. It's all organized, There's a guy who does the killing. There's a guy who flies the helicopter, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that wasn't the case in medieval armies. What I'm saying is authority, or the people at the very top in the ancient past, would do the killing themselves. And in the ending scene, in one of the scenes towards the end, where the people are butchering the bull, and then they eat it. That's what I'm talking about. The people who want to eat the bull or the cow kill it themselves. The same hands that eat the thing are the ones that killed it. That's a little bit closer to the truth. In fact, it's pretty damn close. I don't know if you can get much closer. And that's why our main character is disaffected, jaded. He's starting to kind of drift away from the West. And from the perspective of the West, he's drifting into hell. So again, this movie, because it's targeted at a Western audience, you could interpret it as this guy's slow descent into hell. He's on a boat, he's on the river Styx, whatever. And fucking hell, man. Oh my god, man. It's Morpheus. It's Kid Morpheus. It's Lawrence Fishburne. He's 14 in this. Ironically, the filmmakers were like, well, you got to be, 17 or 18 to be in this film. Like a Vietnam vet. Or maybe I'm getting things confused. Maybe I'm pulling that out of my ass. I want to say he lied about his age to the casting people, but I'm not sure if that's true, so I'm not going to say it's true. By the way, he's reading Sexist by Henry Miller. Henry Miller, extremely good author. Really good. The stuff I read his Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Tropic of Cancer is the really spicy one. Tropic of Capricorn, he gets really nostalgic for like 50 pages and talks about his childhood. So unless that's interesting to you, whatever. But read Tropic of Cancer. Holy fuck. That book was banned for like 40 years because of how... It's like a giant 4chan shitpost of a guy who went to Vegas, basically. But replace Vegas with Paris. And replace 2024 with 1924. But it is way ahead of its time. It's insane. He talks about jizzing on a girl's dress on a cruise and in like fucking her in the bathroom, and the woman's like pissed off at him because he's ruined her dress. Like that's a scene in Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer. It's a great book. But enough about that crap. If you interpret this movie from a Western perspective, it's like a descent into hell. But Willard is sort of disjointed. He's detached from any side in this. He's kind of floating around in between, He's not sure who he wants to be or where he wants to be. And he's fascinated by Kurtz. Kurtz is tempting him. Kurtz is a guy who realized what the bullshit was. And here's the famous scene. This is one of the best scenes in the movie. Just his monologue here, and his, Martin Sheen's voice is so goddamn perfect for this. His voice put the hook in him like he was being hypnotized. So like me on this crazy YouTube channel, Kurtz has gone off on some radio frequency and he's trying to fucking red pill people. He's like the Alex Jones of 1970 whatever. This is supposed to be like 1968 or something, but the movie was made in 79. He was being groomed. Ooh, call the police. It's a different context of that term. And here's where the guy cracked. Like the general said in the Nal Trang scene in the little trailer, we all have a breaking point. We pushed this guy too far, and when we broke him. But we didn't break him in a way where he's just drooling in an asylum. We broke him in the worst way, where he's still sane enough to be dangerous. So in 1964, Kurtz saw something. He got epically traumatized. And he went back and did like this boot camp tier airborne drop soldier training thing, which is like nuts. Like that's training for like a guy who's 18 or 19. And this dude is 38. Crazy. But he did it. He beat the course. He proved to them he was that anxious to not be a fucking bureaucrat, to not be at the top crafting the lies. He's like, I want to be as far away from the lies as I can be. I want to grow potatoes in the woods, I wanted he wanted to take the Ted Kaczynski pill, but he was still a soldier. He's still a killing machine. Again, very dangerous, volatile type of subject, this guy. And Martin Sheen's character in this, again, the way the generals look at him, in that trailer scene, as he's being very polite, he's like, oh yes, sir, very much so, sir. And the general's like, this guy's facade is pretty obvious here, He's performing for us because he's more fucked up than he wants us to know he is, you know. All the subtext in this movie is so well communicated by the performances, man. Just look at people's facial expressions. Everything everything that's being said below the dialogue and below the literal exchange is all right in front of you visually. That's, I mean, movies nowadays, and I know I sound like a fucking grandpa, but the cuts are so quick between scenes. There's not enough time to even interpret a person's facial expression. It's grotesque. It's retarded. It's like you have to look at someone's face for more than 1/10 of a second to actually interpret and absorb a performance. Like a shot has to be longer than that. It's not everything can be a YouTube poop barrage of editing. There's the director, by the way, good old Coppola. And of course, this was a real thing. They really did film soldiers in Vietnam. So there's you know, the meta aspect of this goes into like a fractal house of mirrors, where it's like Coppola's making a movie in which he is making a movie as a character within the movie about soldiers who in real life were filmed by real filmmakers making propaganda movies. And this is an anti-propaganda movie made after the fact. It's wild, man. It's wild. It's fractal irony. I like that term a lot better than the stupid iDubbbz wheel of irony that he did. Just say fractal irony. That's more what it is. Because it's not just layers of irony going in one direction. It's infinite irony. Irony is not a spectrum that goes from point A to point B. It's infinite. Or it's a circle. Or it's two mirrors facing each other. That's what irony really is at its highest form. Irony at its highest form is just two mirrors facing each other. And then, you know, you come in and stand in between them. That's the end point of irony, you know. Sometimes simple irony is much better. Other times, you know, you gotta go fractal. Coppola, he went fractal in this movie, and it's fucking crazy. It's like, you know, irony on LSD. So again, I don't know if I've accurately summarized the premise of this movie, but I'm going to assume I have. So we'll talk about the scenes we're seeing here. Again, all real props, all real shit. Fucking insane, the level of commitment to making a real movie that went into this. Compare this to any of the Marvel slop that you've seen. And so this little ritual here, again, it's like stuffing a deer after you kill it, you know. Gruesome allegory, but in this movie's context it makes sense. He's putting cards on the dead. It's his way of it's his roundabout way of saying I'm sorry. You know, that's the sympathetic interpretation, is he's like, you know, to remove himself from total psychopathy and soullessness, he puts cards on the dead and says, this is my weird autistic way of saying to you, you fought well. You know, I'm gonna nod my head at you. I can't give you a good burial. That's not possible logistically. I'm barred from doing all these things I'd like to do to you. The little sand grain sized piece of my soul that's left in me wants to be honorable, but honor has been so ground up through the machine of illusion that I have to throw playing cards at you instead of just giving you a burial. You know, it's not expedient. The industry, the military-industrial complex, the machine it's moving too fast. But I can do something. And that's this guy's way of keeping his sanity. This Kilgore guy with his nice Civil War hat. The way he keeps himself stable and sane is he has his little ritual with the cards. And the problem with Martin Sheen's character in this is he doesn't really have that. He's lost even his sense of personal ritual creation. He's not telling himself a story about his own life. He has no story. He's unbound. He's like a wraith. He's very fucking. He's on the verge of something real bad. And I love it. He's giving a dying man water, and then the guy's like, "But sir, there's an American celebrity that is actually one of your soldiers. And he's like,
A surfer?
imagine if there's a war in the 2040s. The equivalent of this guy, his subordinate would come up to him and be like, he's trying to give a guy water, and he's like, "Sir, one of your soldiers is actually Penguin Zero."
What, Penguin Zero the streamer? I've admired your videos for years. Your dry tone, the way you talk about poop and farts, but you do it in a way that makes it sound more mature than it is. God damn, man. None of us are anywhere near any of your class as YouTube creators.
Ooh, boy, man. Part of me would feel more at home in this era than 2024. As fucked up as this era was, man. At least the illusions were more real. It's an oxymoron, but it's true. The illusions at least utilized real objects. Now it's all light and artificial ink. It's very weird, the direction we're going. If you're not prepared for weirdness like me, get out of here. You're not in the right timeline for you. And I'm not saying do anything violent or extreme. I'm saying, take some DMT and phase into another reality. Learn to lucid dream and manually transfer yourself to a different timeline in your dreams, and you'll wake up where you want to be. So again, here we have the epic bardic leader. This guy's genuinely a good person. He's a good soul. He's like, we're here for this fucked up war. I'm not going to think too much about the morality of it. My job is to lead my men to increase their morale and to have as much fun as I can in order to keep myself sane. The purpose of having fun during the war is not some gleeful sadism or bloodlust. The purpose is to keep yourself sane. Because the people who are actual sadists, that's like 1 in 30 million people. Most armies are not comprised of 100% sadistic people who jack off to violence. They're just people who are trying to defend themselves. So this guy is not a psychopath. Our main character is way darker than this fucker is. His performance of jollity and joviality and morale, it's not done as a lark. It's done to preserve his own sanity as a commander and the sanity of his men. It has a utility. It has a function. It's like a piece of the machine. It's an illusion, but it's like a part in a machine. Which is, again, the West in a nutshell. Different illusions function like different little cogs. And so again, the captains, there's this tangent. They're all obsessed with surfing because a bunch of them are from California. So that's, again, it's a way they're keeping themselves sane, being spoiled Americans fighting a war with people who eat cold rice in the jungle and have no qualms about violating every moral code that the West has established, because that's not their code. It's not their culture. It's almost like they're aliens from a different moon of the star that became of Jupiter or the star that became of Saturn. It's like they're like that. It's like they're that different from these Americans. They're so removed from them. They have totally different traditions, totally different mindset. In their mind, these Americans are just crazy aliens with scary machines, and they're fighting however they can. I mean, the reality is they were hypnotized by the communism mind virus, and, they're infected with their own kind of crap. They're infected with a single illusion, whereas I have to say, the individualist culture of the West, you got a lot of different illusions, and it's really chaotic, but the irony about a society that embraces chaos is that it understands chaos a hell of a lot better than the ones that don't. The societies or the cultures or the peoples that want one narrative and only one, when reality changes, like when a species has to adapt to a changing environment physically, your society falls apart immediately because it's too brittle, it's too specific, it's too singular in its thinking. You need multiple viewpoints in your own society because the chaos of reality will be easier to navigate if you're more familiar with chaos in an artificial environment like a society. If your society can withstand inner turmoil and still continue to exist, if civil war doesn't kill it, then the external challenges of chaos will be a hell of a lot easier to respond to, because you'll understand chaos more than your opponents do. Your opponents will be flattened. The minute one thing that happens externally to a society that has a single narrative and only one as its linchpin, if that narrative is undermined hard enough in one blow, the whole society will fall apart. Whereas if your society functions on the basis that every individual has their own story and crafts their own little D&D narrative about their purpose and their significance, their pursuit of happiness, whatever, if that's the case, your society will always be better. It will always be more resilient. We haven't come up with a better model than that, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not jacking off to the West as an idea, but that's true. I think that is ultimately true. And even our mass religions have that built in, where, the Judeo-Christian religions, they're pretty loose about very sort of small, specific ways to live your life, whereas other religions are way more militant about way more specific things. And religion is always just another arm of government in a big enough society. So, of course, if you're living in a top-down totalitarian society, the religion is going to reflect that, and vice versa. So it makes sense that religions in America are more laissez-faire about behavioral tenets and specificities, which can be bad. I mean, if you need someone to guide your every move, tell you, here comes the airplane, eat your food, eat at this time, if you need that level of supervision, which is what a lot of religions will offer you, whatever, man, I'm not judging, but your entire society should not be filled with just those type of drone-minded people, at least not in a spiritual sense. You need people who can disobey orders and laugh and take risks and do things according to a personal sense of purpose. Your personal purpose in life has to have precedence over most other things in your life if you're going to achieve anything in Western culture. In other cultures, it's very different. I'm not saying that in the West you can't, again, become a part of any group that tells you what to do. There's a million of those. The point is that the base mentality that's offered to you when you're born in the West is, we want you to be able to do whatever you want within reason. That's basically the summary of the whole culture. And again, the reason I'm talking about this crap is this movie is about that. It doesn't scream it at you. There's no exposition that's like, Martin Sheen's character doesn't go, I realized I was in the West. It's an individualist culture. We're given a lot of freedom. And there's a lot of different illusions competing with each other. And now we're fighting a culture. And the one danger is they're unified under the communism mind virus. So they're all like drones in a beehive. And they're all going to do the same thing all at once. They're trying to use our chaos against us. But in the end, in the long term, we'll use their order against them. He doesn't say that. I'm not even effectively making fun of that fake line of dialogue. It would be 10 times worse than that if somebody had written this movie in 2024. God, imagine a 2024 version of this. Can you imagine how paused, how zogged, how much worse it would be? It would be vomit-inducing. And again, we have this very militant, ordered society. They have schools. They have, schools where they're trying to teach their subjects their own culture. It's another human culture. You're not fighting insects. You're not fighting drones. You're not fighting aliens. You're fighting people. All that bullcrap schizo shit is dehumanizing nonsense. These are other human beings. Maybe they've been hypnotized by the communism, political, social, religious mind virus. Karl Marx was an anti-Semitic Satanist, by the way, and I'm not exaggerating in either of those claims. This is well documented. Imagine following the teachings of an anti-Semitic Satanist. He was also extremely racist, too. I mean, everybody was in the 1800s, but this dude was, like, writing about it in letters and shit. Imagine following his ideas and thinking that they have validity. I mean, you shouldn't judge someone's ideas by their personal beliefs, but, you know, there's a limit, I think, to that, you know? Like, Alan Turing was gay, but he invented the computer, the modern computer. I'd say his personal sins are pretty negligible compared to his professional achievements. Marx's professional achievements killed 60 million people, something like that. Maybe 40 million, whatever it was. You know, then when you look at his personal beliefs, they kind of advocate for that same type of effect that his professional writings had. So, you know, again, if the two correlate in a way that is horrific and damaging for humanity, I would say it's fair to judge the guy based on his personal beliefs. I would say it's a subjective type of thing. But it's not a good trend. You know, you don't want to be judging an artist's work according to the artist's personal shit. I want to put it out there that I'm firmly against that. Separating the art from the artist is a good thing. There are very rare cases when it's not, and that's the reason, because those cases are so rare, is the reason that we don't want to set a precedent for doing that, because then it gets applied to other cases, which in most cases don't warrant that type of judgment, you know. It's a slippery slope argument all over again. So again, you know, the narrative of the reason they're doing this shit is so they can surf, you know. And this is absurd. I mean, it's desperate. It's insane. They're blowing up soldiers, and then these guys are shitting their pants because a flare hit their helicopter. They're so pampered. They're so green. They're so unused to real danger and combat and gore. I mean, this is like a parody of the American military. I mean, it's directly insulting them because they're pampered cyborgs. You know, they have all this incredible technology at their fingertips, but they haven't experienced the personal trauma of war enough. So when they're confronted with starved guerrilla fighters living in the woods who slit their throats in their sleep, they can't handle it. It's two different universes of socialization, of subject formation. They're completely different people. This motherfucker's complaining? Are you fucking kidding me? How did you get through boot camp? You fucking cigarette? Instead of using the British term for cigarette, I'm just going to say cigarette when I try to insult people for being pansy, weak-minded, cowardly individuals. I'm going to call them cigarettes, at least in this review. We're going to do it in tribute to Martin Sheen, who chain-smoked throughout the entire filming of this and had 2 heart attacks, probably from excessive nicotine. Good for you, man. Again, even our suffering is a spectacle, man. The fucking old people in the house that was bombed are praying for this dying guy, even though he just bombed their village. It's insane. Totally different level of respect for the dead and dying. Totally different cultures. Be like turtles and emus trying to fight a war. I mean, it's so nuts, the difference between the two. There's a great South Park episode where Earth is revealed to be a reality show where different aliens from different planets are all dumped in the same space for fun. Just to see how they'll react to each other, you know? Like every species of animal is from a different planet. If the truth is anything close to that, I hope the showmakers are killed in the most horrific, slow, and painful way possible. I hope they're subjected to yeah, that'd be fair. The same level of torture that the I have no mouth, but I must scream victims in that story are. If there's showrunners of reality and they think this is fun to watch, and they're so soulless they don't care about the actors. That's where they belong. They belong in the I have no mouth, but I must scream narrative as the victims. So they haven't quite cleared the beach because they're still being bombed. But this dude is so fucking keen on surfing, man. And part of it is genuine. Again, I think he's sufficiently mature that he's using a real desire of his. He's like, I really do love surfing, but I also need to keep myself sane, and I need to keep my men sane and their morale up. So I'm going to use the performance, the illusion of surfing obsession to keep my men inspired. And there's a comment Willard makes. There's a comment Martin Sheen's character makes where he says, this guy had a weird light around him. You knew he wasn't going to get a scratch here. He's like a star. He's like an actor. He's transcended the illusion of the whole of reality. And he's like, I'm just here to play around and have fun. And for that reason, chaos, fate, destiny, determinism, they're all avoiding him. You know, the upper dimensional beings that are watching all this carnage for fun look at this guy and go, oh, no, don't kill this guy with a stray bullet. He's entertaining. He's something. This guy's got the moxie. He's got that thing we love. He's got the star power. Just keep him alive. Bend physics to keep him alive. No matter what he does. Kill his men, yes, but keep him alive. He's funny. He's fun. It's too real, man. The surfers are getting fucking bombed. Jesus Christ, man. Don't you think this is risky for R&R? And he says, if I say it's safe, it's safe. I'm the fucking commander. Then he rips his shirt off. What an uber Chad, man. God damn. It's like his sheer force of will keeps him alive. I love it, man. That's how to live your own life. If you have a sort of willpower that's almost nuts, but not quite, you'll be amazed what shit happens to you that's good. Like, stuff will just sort of fall into place. It's very creepy. This woman fucking gives him her kid.
It's like, I'm just here to surf. Take the tyke away. I'm about to bomb the tree line with Agent Orange and give you all cancer. Fuck off.
Man, reality is just a game of civilization. That's all it is. It's crazy. I don't know, man. I just watch this shit and talk about it. I'm destined to be like the hermit character from Monty Python's Holy Grail, just chuckling away in a little hut. That's gonna be me when I'm like 70, chuckling away in the woods, waiting for heroes to be like, "What's the real truth? We're not ready to hear it." And I'll be like, "I'll give you a cryptic piece of it, and you'll still go insane." And then I disappear. It's one of my favorite scenes in Holy Grail where the guy just disappears. Anyway, enough about that crap. I'm going off on tangents. So yeah, they bombed the tree line. I think they had to do this 2 or 3 times or something in the actual filming. And this is, of course, the famous scene.
I love the smell of the braps of the military-industrial complex in the morning. Morning braps are always the best. It's been brewing all night. It smells like victory. Your GF ever give you a Dutch oven in the morning? There's nothing better on this earth. Smells like the oil industry.
This is where his facade almost cracks here. He's reassuring himself, not his men, but he's so good at performing, he's developed a mode of performing that's allowed him to be a leader. Someday this war is going to end, as if war itself is going to end. He just says this war. And then it's like he offers them an excuse, a surfing-based excuse to not be killed. He says, "Oh, the wind's wrong. Yeah, the wind is wrong. Guys, get out of here." In his mind, he's thinking, this is too hot. It is too hot for us to stay here. I gotta pull my guys out. What am I gonna tell them? I can't tell these spoiled American brats that they have to retreat. Even such a simple truth as that, because they're so steeped in lies, even telling them a tiny truth like, guys, we gotta retreat, it's Harry, it'll demoralize them because they're so fucking immature and green. So he invents an illusion. He says, you know what, guys? We came, we surfed, we had some fun, but now the wind has changed, and I'm your commander, so that's why we're leaving. And they're all like, okay, sir, we believe you. Like, it's just pathetic, man. It's so sad. This movie shows you what reality looks like if you're Willard, or if you're me. It shows you what it looks like if you're Martin Sheen's character. He sees the insanity. He's like, the desperation of these lies, these excuses. That's the weakness of a society that is individualist, that allows its people to create bespoke narratives for their own lives. They end up weaker. The individual ends up less resilient, whereas in a society where everybody's exactly on the same page, they all just go throw themselves into a pit for the cause, you know? But if you can keep them fed with illusions, it's like a drug, you know? You get your populace addicted to illusions, fast-paced, flashy ones specifically. You have to keep feeding them that. If you don't keep feeding them flashy and fast-paced illusions, your whole society falls apart. And what then? Then all that's left are brittle totalitarian societies, and then they get shattered by chaos instantly. And then all of humanity, all of Earth is just fucked because everything just collapses all at once. You know, it's not as if the West is the savior of all humanity, but it kind of is in a way in this context, because there's very few societies that afford their people the freedom to come to their own self-determined path. And that's not a small thing. It's not a trivial thing. You know, Willard is drinking still. And the cook guy, our good old cook, he's like, I had a dream, you know, I met Raquel Welch and I cream pied her. Ha ha ha. Very funny. I mixed my cum with mango pulp and spread it around on our bodies. Oh, it was very erotic, very epic. It was very Playboy 1979. Nowadays, people watching this are like, that's nothing, man. I did that with my girlfriend's shit. They're like, you guys are behind the times. Mango pulp and cum, really? That's so 1979. Like, come on, bro. That's boring to us now. This poor boatman, man. This poor Charon guy. He's like, you motherfuckers gonna end up dead in 2 seconds and I ain't gonna die with you. Good for him. And of course, this movie is based on a book. I should point that out. I assume people watching this will know that, but Heart of Darkness is the main inspiration for this book. Heart of Darkness is one of the creepiest books I've ever read. It's creepier than anything Lovecraft wrote. And the reason it's creepy is because it's very grounded, it's very real. It stars a disaffected character who grew up in a rich Victorian household in England, and he goes down to become this. You know what? I'm mischaracterizing. I don't think he was rich. The environment that he's in is contrasted with the African environment that he ends up in. But basically, he's like these characters. He's sort of one of these characters at the apex or the end, whatever you want to call it, of an empire. And he goes down to Africa in the book. And there's the beginning of the book. I haven't read this book in fucking 10 years, so fucking forgive me. I'm not going to reread it for a off-the-cuff review that I'm not getting paid for. But basically, the main character in Heart of Darkness is like, he's like Willard. He's like Martin Sheen's character. He's disaffected, he's jaded, he's kind of bored, and he feels kind of soulless in England, which is why he keeps trying to escape. But what he escapes to is all there is, which is everything else, which is just the truth, the brutal, savage truth of nature. The cultures in it are not savage. It's the environment that is. And so to respond to it, they have to act like it. They have to put themselves on the same level as their environment. Every culture does. If you live in a concrete jungle, you got to be a concrete dweller, you know? It's no different. It's a different set of behaviors and constraints and a different ideological, philosophical kind of perspective of life, of living. And this poor fucker, he's like, I really wanted to be a fancy cook. I wanted to revel in the aesthetic and sensual beauty of food. I wanted to craft beautiful food for people to look at and enjoy. I wanted to celebrate digestion. I wanted to enjoy it. And then I ended up here. And he says, well, some recruitment poster told me the Navy had good food. What an idiot. And then he goes, first day I joined up, they lined us up in front of prime rib. The meat in this scene is the people. It's the soldiers. Magnificent meat. Young, virile, breeding age, intelligent men. Not intelligent, I take that back. But then he said they boiled it all, and it turned gray. Gray like concrete. They took this fresh meat, these young recruits, these soldiers, that's the allegory, and they boiled them down to this gray slop. And he says, that was my moment of being jaded and disaffected. And it's funny that he's on this boat too. The surfer, Lance, whatever, is just a drug addict. He's just dropping acid the whole movie. So his way of breaking from Western society was just being high all the time. The chef broke from society when he saw that people were being processed into gray slop. And then, of course, Martin Sheen's character, he killed a bunch of people. He lost his wife to his job. And he has the overarching kind of awareness of illusion. And here's the truth. The truth is a cat in the woods, man. This is 2001. The truth is a predator in the woods trying to kill you. The chef is green. He's an idiot. He's a coward. He freaks out, runs away. You know, Willard just calmly dodges the cat, you know. He's got a gun. What does he have to worry about? But he has to keep pace with the worst of his little group here. The worst of them are scared and run away, so he has to run away. And the chef's having a fucking panic attack. He's like, don't get out of the boat, don't get out of the boat. Fucking Lawrence Fishburne's wasting ammo shooting at a cat. Who the fuck cares, man? God damn. Starts taking off his clothes. He's having a full-on panic attack, man. God damn. It's one of the symptoms of panic is you Take off all your clothes. You recognize the illusion of clothing and the truth of nakedness, and you start to strip yourself because your ape lizard brain is taken over, and realize that what you're wearing is not growing out of your pores. It is not your fur. It is some weird bondage shit that has been placed on you. That's a real deep red pill, man. Clothing is basic bondage. It's not for censoring your nakedness. The real function of it is to take an artificial substance and wrap it around your body to get you used to having artificial things imposed on your real self. That's some Willard tier shit. He's like, Kurtz got off the boat. He split from the whole fucking program. I have such a fucking intense desire to just read the dialogue, man. I love it. But he hasn't read the dossier enough. He's like, I don't know what traumatized Kurtz. And while he reads it in the night, this is a good place to cut off the recording here. I'm going to record this in multiple parts because I want this recording to be good. So I'm going to space things out. So guys, I'm going to say quickly goodbye here at 1, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Peace out. Alright guys, we are back at about 1 hour, 1 minute and 20 seconds. And Willard is looking at the dossier. It's a big dossier. He had to take some time to read it. And he's like, finally when this Kurtz guy was like, I'm out, man. I'm gonna quit. They gave him another chance. They must have thought he was some far-out old man. Yeah, well, he was. He was too far out. Willard's like, Martin Sheen's like, I went to Hollywood when I was 19 and the constant blowjobs and sexual favors nearly wasted me. This guy was twice my age. He walked right into Harvey Weinstein's office and did everything he was told. What a baller. They're all writing letters to home. He's being smart, this guy, the chef. He's not doing something corny. He's reading aloud what he's writing to make sure it doesn't suck. It's a good tactic. You got to do that. October 1967. Now we've got cut back to Martin Sheen here. And he's talking about a rogue operation that Kurtz staged. He took matters into his own hands. He received no official clearance, but did it anyway. That's insane. Essentially, he went rogue at this point. But the problem is, what he did worked. He was like, I'm so sick of waiting and arguing and trying to kowtow and make my case and go through bureaucracy when I know what the right move is. If you actually want to win the war, here's the right move. But maybe they didn't want the right move. They just wanted him to follow a script, like reality's a big stage show. Well, do you want it to be a stage show forever? Or do you want to actually win? That's sort of what Kurtz is implicitly asking his superiors by deviating from what they've told him to do. And of course, Martin Sheen's character, his whole journey in this movie is he's going to be tempted to do the same thing. But it's worth rubber banding back to the film for this scene. This is a very important scene. The whole argument that the West is a carnival of lies, a hell's carnival type of thing, is most obvious in this scene, where you have all these big lights, these big film lights, blasting light into the darkness of the jungle, blasting the light of civilization into the trees. And, they arrive at this camp. It's kind of ragtag, but they got a lot of supplies. They're organized. They're doing well. Good for them. They've got a fucking bunch of motorbikes for some fucking reason. I don't know what use a motorbike would be in a jungle. Again, that's part of the absurdity of this movie. It's sort of clown world. This movie is more of a clown world advocating piece of media than the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, because they've brought high-end motorbikes into fucking Cambodia. You know, it's like the surfboards. It's the same type of thing. And of course, here's this guy. You know, he's the supply guy. And he's just doing his job, you know, he's saying what he has to say. But these guys are on an important mission. They need fuel. They're not asking for fucking motorbikes or surfboards. They're asking for gasoline. And he says, destination's classified. I have papers proving it. And he goes, oh, sorry, bro, it's a busy night. I'm going to talk to this other guy. And Martin Sheen fucking grabs the guy by the throat, practically, and goes, I'm not fucking around, man. I'm not performing. I'm not a fucking clown. I'm a soldier. I'm a killer. We need fuel. Wake up, you know? He fucking pulled the guy around his desk. He pulled him from behind the facade of his supply job into the real world, metaphorically. And the guy goes, look, I know I fucked up. I've seen your type before. Here's some booze. Very dark, creepy, true gesture this guy just performed, where he's like, oh, you're one of those guys. Okay. A, I'm not going to fuck with you. B, I'm going to give you some alcohol, because clearly that's your loadout, you know. You need booze to be honest and do your job. Like me. So again, we've got this makeshift theater. Giant bullets. I didn't notice those first 10 times I watched this. God damn. They've got bullets like fucking cenotaphs, like icons, like gravestones, fucking pushed up in the background there. Again, that's a little bit corny. It's a little bit cringe. Some things in this movie don't age as well as others, but for the most part, this movie ages very well. You know, it was released in 79. It was made in the late 70s. If you're watching this now in 2024, goddamn, 98% of it holds up. You know, just replace this with OnlyFans. Just replace this with, you know, e-thoughts. That's all you have to do. It's not that much of a stretch to make in your mind. It's basically the same thing. It's a show involving performers that is meant to motivate spoiled, rich, elite soldiers. They're not kids of the elite. A lot of them have come from poor backgrounds. What I'm saying is that the overall culture is more decadent, more rich than the enemies that they're fighting. And they have different motivation mechanisms. And I don't want to, you know, ingratiate the Viet Cong, jungle-dwelling insurgents, you know, implicitly by pointing out how crazy and stupid and clown worldish this is. That's not what I'm saying. Those other soldiers have their own weaknesses. They're malnourished. They're desperate. You know, they die from natural shit. The West has its own weaknesses, and that's what's on display here. And later on in the movie, at the very end, or towards the end, the weaknesses of the opponents are put on full display. And the irony, of course, is this is just a movie. It's all just a show. But it represents a real conflict that really happened. And there's, again, it's like fractal irony. Like, the actual conflict had as much to do with illusion as this movie's own construction of itself and presentation of these characters has. Look, we've got Vietnamese people eating rice, wearing fucking rice hats behind the fence in that shot we just saw, that little pan over the barbed wire fence. People who aren't officially allowed to see the show, they're seeing it anyway. You know? It's like people who torrented this movie, which I definitely didn't do. And by the way, on a totally unrelated note, I should note that this is the 1979 Final Cut version. It is not the Redux version, which is a nightmare. The Redux version of this, it's good if you can, you know, hook yourself up to a catheter and sit on your couch for 4.5 hours. But, you know, this movie is really the best version of it. It has the best scenes. So now we have a problem. The Marines have broken through the barrier of the illusion. They're so horny. You know, they're like, I've been fucking dudes for 6 months. I just want some real pussy. They fucking climb over the barricade onto the stage. The audience climbs onto the stage. The inmates break out of the asylum. They break into the realm of the illusion and they start ruining it, kind of like I do with these videos where I explain to you what you're actually seeing. And so everybody has to leave. The illusion, to preserve itself, has to retreat. These poor women, man, they didn't ask for this shit. They're like, I'm just here to perform, right? Imagine if an OnlyFans performer had their fans literally break down their door in their house during a stream. That's what's going on here. For all you internet brain-rotted, brain-cooked Zoomers out there, that's the equivalent. That's the modern or postmodern or post-postmodern, whatever the fuck era we're in. That's essentially what's happening here. They're flooding the stage. They're simping so hard, one of them climbed onto the fucking helicopter. It's like, I'm already risking my life, you know, I might die in the jungle. Why the fuck wouldn't I grab onto a fucking helicopter blade, you know? Why wouldn't I grab onto the landing gear just to get closer to these women? Again, they've trained these people, they've programmed these golems, these NPCs. Are you really surprised when they go apeshit? You programmed them to do this. You know, this is your handiwork. Congratulations. Enjoy it. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. No wonder Kurtz put a weed up Command's ass. The war was being run by clowns. Again, all the media that's come out since this, people act like it's a new thing to point out Clown World. This was made in '79, okay? Wake up. Wake up to this shit, specifically, not to some leftist Che Guevara mental poison. That's not what I'm saying. You know, they're all obsessed with Playboy. Oh, the titties, man, the titties, baby. Tapes it to the fucking boat, kisses it like an idol, false idol. And he's like, this guy said, give me your magazine. And he's like, this Vietnamese guy, he started to stick pins into the idol. He started to desecrate the sacred golden cow. He started sticking pins into the boobs of this Playboy thing. And that was too much. They killed the guy for it. Shot him for desecrating a false idol. These people were so hypnotized by a little bit of Western porn. Crazy shit, insanity, savagery, right? And again, this is based on Heart of Darkness, which is much better than this. Heart of Darkness is 100 times more. It's 100 times better than this, you know. If you really want to, I don't know of any adaptations of it, visually or on film that are as good as the book. You really just have to read the book. It's not that bad. The language in the book is pretty modern. It's like it was written by a time traveler or something. It's very good for the time in which it was written. Joseph Conrad is a real one. Go read that book. It's like 160 pages or something. It's not that bad. Like, you know, if your attention span's that cooked, you're already fucked. You're gonna have an Apple Vision Pro forcibly strapped to you like Clockwork Orange and become a little processing node in the Silicon Valley drone machine. If your attention span is so bad you can't even read a fucking book, if your brain is that rotted, you know, you need to go spend a month in the mountains and stare at trees and realize You know, the value of your own life. Again, they're fucking surfing, man. God damn. The boat captain's like, I needed a break. I gave it to the chef, gave the wheel to the chef. Maybe I'm actually going to have a bit of fun. He's like, even I, you know, as the serious Charon boatman of Hades, even I have to fucking relax for a second. And even Martin Sheen grins, for real. He's like, you know what? It's good these guys aren't miserable, you know? It's good there's a little bit of levity, you know? Going by these farmers, blasting them with water. This is like an allegory for like Americans being tourists in other countries and expecting the locals to perform American, when the opposite is the respectful thing to do. Yeah, you might feel like a bit of a cuck, but you know, if you're in Saudi Arabia with your wife or your girlfriend, you should really have her put on a veil, you know? Just do the minimum. Do the basic bare minimum to not piss people off. That's not that demanding. That's not that hard. If that bruises your ego that much, then you're a child. You know? That's what the blasting the boat, you know, Vietnamese fishermen with this boat is like. It's like the brazenness and the it's either a lack of awareness or just sheer just not caring, you know. These guys are going by them, mooning them. Again, the fact that this scene follows our main character's boat blasting a bunch of Vietnamese boatmen with water, that's intentional. It's to show that this is American culture. We kind of like to bully each other a little for fun and fuck with each other, because it kind of wakes you up a bit to be bullied a little bit, you know, in a jovial, joking kind of, you know, good-natured ribbing kind of way. That's actually not a bad thing. Maybe other cultures can learn from that, or maybe they already have their own ways of doing it. Maybe we shouldn't try to convert them all like some kind of psychopath missionary, you know. You don't want to try to do that. It won't go well for you. Anyway, said what I want to say about that. They had a flare hit their boat, and now they've had to repair the roof with reeds. So the boat itself is being slowly mutated and converted into a part of the jungle. They are getting deeper. And meanwhile, Martin Sheen, he's reading more of Kurtz's dossier, and he goes, Kurtz's guys were getting attacked. What did he do? He says, kill these 4 people. 2 of them were colonels. He managed to kill them with his random-ass ragtag band. But then they stopped fucking with him. And so Martin Sheen goes, strategically, independent of the left-right artificial black and white Illuminati chessboard AB, you know, binary of the war, he's like, I just personally don't want them fucking with me. So he killed these people, and he claimed that 2 of them were double agents. That basically means he killed 2 of his own guys. If 2 of them were at least halfway working with America in this war, that means he killed 2 fellow soldiers. And this is when Martin Sheen realizes if he's willing to do that, he's fucked, man. He's done with the play, with the game. He's outside of it. He's moved beyond it, and not in a good way. Again, he's achieved a type of reverse transcendence where he's not privy, or rather he's privy to the game to the point where he's like, I'm sick of it, I'm bored of it. It disgusts me, and it bores me. You know, he's like American Psycho. He's like, I'm just sick of this. I'm sick of the whole game of reality. You know, either I'm going to live outside of it, or I'm going to wait till it changes to contribute to it. That's the ultimatum, and it's not going to change anytime soon because it changes at the pace of, you know, centuries. I'm reminded of a quote Tesla is famous for saying, where he says, if you provide society with one innovation from your intellect, or from wherever it came to you via inspiration, they'll laud you as a hero. But if you try to do it again in your lifetime, society moves too slow because people are too dumb. And I don't think addicting the younger generations to TikTok is going to help. I think the speed at which people process information, if you just crank it up to max, that's not going to solve the problem. The problem isn't how much information can you absorb how quickly. It's how can you process that information with some nuance? How can you sort that information? The problem isn't choice, like the Matrix. The problem is sorting. The problem is how can you figure out what to latch onto, what to focus on, what to remember, etc. If you don't have that ability, if that ability is not bred into you or socialized into you, that's the real problem. It's not as much about speed as it is about discernment. All these shots of the eyes. Wonder what those mean. Close-ups of the eye. Interesting. So now he's quoting Kurtz. And Kurtz is like, all I did was try to win this war, even if the script of reality was that we were supposed to lose it or pretend to lose it. You know, the US was supposed to have a defeat here. He's like, I don't agree with that. I was told to win this war, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the orders to an absolute extreme to express my opposition to the clownishness of the whole game. You want me to win? I'll win at any cost, and I do mean any cost. So they accuse him of murder, because of course, some of the Vietnamese officials he killed were actually American agents. That's the implication here. You know, it's not told to you black and white. It's not like Kurtz figured out that they were both American agents. That's not officially clearly said to you. It's the fact that when he's reading this dossier, that's what's implied. And so now he's still reading it. He's like, when you have to do something, when there's a task in front of you, do it fully and cleanly. Don't half-ass it, don't lie, just do it. That's real power, is to own the performance to such an extent that you're no longer performing. You're just acting. You're just performing an action. And it's fucked up how those terms, they've both been co-opted by theatrics, by the context of the theater. What he's saying is do it. That's what he's saying. That's what Kurtz is saying in the lines that Willard is quoting here. So Lance the Surfer is a narcissist. He's looking at himself in his fucking pocket mirror. He's got like a woman's pocket mirror here. Other two guys are arguing. The boatman's like, I'm so sick of your guys' shit, man. It's like being a 4chan or a Discord mod. He's like,
Stop posting that sneed and feed shit on here. I told you I banned that meme.
and Chef's like, I'll post any sneed and feed shit I want. I like the Simpsons meme. I think it's funny. Meanwhile, Lance is on like one of the social boards, or he's on Discord, and he's like, hey guys, I just made like 50 new friends. They really like my jawline. And Willard is still staring at this dark-ass image of Kurtz, man. Some clandestine photo. You can't even see his face. So fucking good. So goddamn good. Now, this scene is interesting. Most of this was improvised. The boat, I'm sure, was scripted to be there for scenic reasons. But the fact that they stop and encounter it, that was suggested by one of the actors, and I want to say it was the guy who's playing Lance Henriksen, the surfer. I'm not sure. The point is that one of the actors suggested that they do an improvisational thing here, and this was all kept because of how good it was. This encounter was not scripted to take place. Coppola did not write that our heroes find this fishing boat. The fishing boat was supposed to be a set piece, a very elaborate and detailed and fleshed out set piece, for sure. You know, You'll notice that none of the Vietnamese characters on this boat say anything because there's no scripted dialogue. The point is that this scene was contrived. It was come up with on the fly. It's almost like improv if your actors are good, and if your director is good, and if your set is well designed, and your set pieces are good, is the best way to produce natural events that you can capture on camera. You got to keep it as close to the truth as possible. Kind of like the whole point of this movie. They're trying to get closer to the truth at their own expense. And in the context of movie making, the expense is literal. If you're relying on improv, maybe you have to do a bunch of takes. Maybe you waste $50,000 and 16 hours on a scene that you have to scrap. They took the risk, man. They took the gamble. And we got this scene. This is all unscripted. He's rooting through all the vegetables on the boat. It's all props, man, but none of it was designed to be rooted through. They were like, just grab a fishing boat, pay a Vietnamese person or whoever. I think they filmed this in Cambodia, I think. I'm not sure where they filmed this. Point is, they grabbed some boat and they were like, oh, we'll use this as a prop. And then the actors were like, what if we actually boarded it? And Coppola was like, well, you could. Everything's real. It's not like we're over-reliant on CGI like some ineffectual artificial limb. We can actually film this scene. We have fake bullets. We can get blast caps shoved under the clothing of the Vietnamese boat characters. If you want to shoot them up, we can make that happen. I don't think I'm off base. I'm a little doubtful, but I'm pretty sure that at least some aspect of this encounter was not in the original script. It was done as a lark. It was done as a one-off type of thing. And of course, they were trying to save the puppy on board, the little dog. And again, in a sort of clown world, extreme irony situation, finally our cook realizes that's what these people were trying to protect. People we just massacred for no fucking reason because we're all dehydrated and high and paranoid and generally fucked up. We just murdered 2 or 3 people who were just trying to protect a dog. And Chef was against the whole thing. To be fair, he spoke out against it. He was like, don't fuck with these people. And he's so merciful, man. He's like, I'm just a cook. Can we not save this one woman? Martin Sheen's like, she's a liability, man. He says, get out of the way, Chief. He doesn't react. He doesn't go crazy. He doesn't go psycho. He just blows her away in cold blood. That's when he really shows his colors, man. This one fucking scene where he's like, move away, Chief. He just kills her. And our boatman he looks like he's about to puke. He's like, how the fuck is this the guy that this mission is dependent on? He's the linchpin of the mission. He's the reason we're going down this road. This water road. To indulge in an Anglo-Saxon term. Martin Sheen, he sighs. He's like, oh, God, I didn't want to do that. But he's so cold about it, man. He's so cooked that he's able to do that and then go to sleep and wake up the next day and eat a meal. I mean, to be able to function after doing that, you're a different kind of creature than some 1950s or even 1970s idyllic suburban American. You've become something way more alien if you're able to do that. It was the way we had over here of living with ourselves. We cut them in half with a machine gun and gave them a Band-Aid. It was a lie. And so he's admitting here, he's like, this culture, man, the way we justify our actions and our embodiment and our existence and our way of life by lying the way we do in particular. The Western way of lying. I'm sick of it. And every culture has their way, even the Viet Cong do. They tell their own lies, they tell their own stories. It's just Willard, our character, is not aware of it yet. And he has to be made aware of it. The whole point of this movie is that he has to see that every culture functions the same. No one's better or worse. They're just different. And I'm not going to talk about technology and intellect and IQ and a whole bunch of other factors. The point is just the cultural narrative, the way that you justify doing things, good or evil, the way that you justify behavior. That's the whole point of this. These poor soldiers, man, they're fucking jumping into the water with their trunks and their guns. They're like, get us the fuck out of here, man. This is a hellish scene. There's a scene in Dante's Inferno with a bunch of people in a frozen lake, and only their heads and hands poke up out of the surface. That's what this is evoking. It's evoking the same imagery. These guys are in hell, and they know they are now. Like Willard, they've realized they're too deep. They're stuck, and they want to get out. They're so desperate they've lost their minds. Luckily, though, there's at least one guy who's semi-sane, and he goes, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the human lighthouse. I just flashed a signal at you. You know, he's like, I'm also trying to get out of here, though. You know, you're in the asshole of the world. And of course, they need fuel. They got to fuel their boat. And he goes, I'm going to go on a sort of a recon mission. I'm going to ask these guys what the fuck's happening. And the whole meme about this area is, well, there's this bridge. They keep trying to rebuild it. The enemy keeps trying to destroy it. And it's this perpetual cycle and nothing happens. The Viet Cong don't gain any ground and the Americans don't gain any ground. It's an eternal war of attrition where both sides have enough of an advantage that nothing changes. It's like eternal war. It's a nightmare. It's hell. Real hell is fighting for nothing. You know, there's a scene in a movie, which I might do a review on, but it's kind of boring. There's a movie called Cool Hand Luke where a prisoner is assigned to dig a hole and then take the dirt he just dug out and fill the hole again and then dig it out again. It's pointless. It's pointless Ted Kaczynski, hyper-civilized, over-socialized nonsense. It's torture, essentially, for the purposes of doing something. Who knows? The real black pill is there is no purpose. It's just, this is your damnation. You know, you're just going to do pointless crap until you die. And then when you're reincarnated, you're going to do it again until you figure out whatever magical, epic secret of existence you're supposed to figure out. What a bunch of horse shit. I say blow the whole system up, cosmically. Go to this, make an 8th dimensional or a 12th dimensional bomb and blow the whole dimension up and everything below it. That's what I say. Don't do some corny, cringy shit in this dimension. Don't resort to physical violence here. That does nothing. You know, learn to meditate and go to the 12th dimension and set off a nuke that blows the whole dimension up. That would be very epic and cool. Because apparently the whole system is fucked. If we're supposed to realize something, we're not realizing it. It's not getting through to us. That's what this movie's saying. The real black pill core of this movie is, despite all this violence and chaos, people are still deaf. They're still dead. They're still blind. Or most of them are. They haven't realized whatever they're supposed to realize. Whatever that is. Doesn't matter what your religion or philosophy is. Most people don't get it. Most people don't rise. They stagnate. They don't even fall. At least if you fall, you gain a new perspective. You're like, oh, that's what hell is. Okay, I'm going to claw my way out of there and never go back, you know? At least if you fall, you've gained some information. Most people don't even do that. They just rot. They stay in one place forever. What a nightmare. It's not even a nightmare. It's just nothing. And again, that's what this area is in this movie, this bridge that both sides are trying to take. Neither of them can take it. The Americans trying to defend it, their entire unit and all their efforts and resources are thrown into this nonsense choke point on this river. And the enemies can't make any ground either. So it's just two groups of people, two groups of apes from 2001, screeching at each other over a watering hole. It does nothing. It makes no progress. Nothing changes for either side. That's hell. Hell is this sort of unchanging chaos. And here we have this guy who's hardened as fuck. And Willard asks him, "Do you know who's in charge here?" And he just goes, "Yeah." And he doesn't give him an answer. He's like, "I know who's in charge. No one. Or God, or the devil. You know, fill in the blank." He says, "I'll give you an answer, Willard. I know who's in charge. Nobody." But he's so hardened. This is like the Black Willard. He's like, "I know there's a guy there, and I'm kind of annoyed at him yelling. So I'm going to specifically kill him, even though it won't affect the conflict at all." He's just like, "I was just annoyed at that guy." Here's where he asks the question. The light coming over his face. "Do you know who's in command?" Yeah. The way he says the word "yeah," the inflection of his delivery of that line is enough to imply everything that I just ranted at you about. You only need one word. If you have good actors and a good director, that's all you need is a single word. The really genius directors, you don't need any words. That's why I love Stalker and Solaris, is you just need facial expressions. But that's like a lost art. That's being rapidly killed in favor of, I don't know, emojis or some shit. Yeah, an emoji will definitely convey the complexity of what that black guy with the tiger painted grenade launcher just said. An emoji would definitely replace that scene. I'm sure that an emoji would convey all the nuanced emotions that scene conveyed and all the different contexts of what he was saying. I'm sure an emoji's enough. We're digging our way straight to hell, man, with this digital nightmare that we're building. Hopefully only the idiots get caught in it. Hopefully it's just for the dummies so they don't spurg out. I really hope that's the case, man. I hope the internet's just a containment zone for idiots. But problem is smart people like it too much. It appeals to everybody a little too much. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason it's being dumbed down, so that smart people are embarrassed by being online too much. Maybe that's part of the play. I don't know anymore. I hope that is. I hope that's true. That's like best case scenario. That's like the non-black pilled way to interpret it. But the truth is just Alan Moore has a great quote where he said, "The world is rudderless. It's not that there's one or another group in control. There really is nobody in control." And when you accept that, which is a hard thing to accept, everything makes sense. You know, real things seem real. And you understand. You're like, "Oh, yeah, it is just, it is just a bunch of bullshit. We're just flailing in the dark. That's the truth." So, rubber banding back to the movie from my cynical crap, we have a care package of mail. These guys have received an epic analog text, each of them, from their GFs, their families, whoever. They're all reading them out loud. They're so excited. There could never be a place like Disneyland. Good God, that's cynical, man. you're in Disneyland right now, man. You're in the hell version of Disneyland. So Willard gets an important communique. He says, now that they're saying, now that we've distanced you from us enough, we're going to tell you something that we weren't comfortable telling you at Nal Trang. We sent a guy who was basically you. We sent one of our assassins that we thought was hardened and stable and sane into this same territory. And he went native. There he is, his vampire-looking ass, sallow cheek motherfucker. They're like, this is your predecessor. Are you gonna fall prey to the same thing? Who knows? And now, of course, our fucking surfer guy, he's high on acid. Purple haze, man. Blah, blah, blah. And the droll delivery of this mother who sounds like she's never even recorded herself before. She's so stilted in her delivery. It's like she's like one of those people that you see in like films from 1910 where they're not performing because they don't even understand the how the camera works. Her voice is like that. She's so out of time. You know? She doesn't understand that she sounds stilted. She's just trying to record the message with some clarity. Now, of course, there's a very epic battle scene going on where they're being shot at from the trees. And poor Lawrence Fishburne, he gets shot right in the chest. He's fucked. He's dead. And his mom's recording is still playing. Lance has lost his little dog. And this black guy's like, why did it have to be this guy? Probably reminds him of him when he was younger, you know? Horrible scene, tragic scene. I'll have a lot of grandchildren. Good God, man. Her recording is so true. It's so awkwardly sincere. She's not performing. She's just transcribing her thoughts. And here we see she's just talking to a corpse. Brutal fucking scene, man. Again, different director, different movie would have botched this. That's why directors don't try this anymore. Even Martin Sheen, he's on the verge of tears here. This is our psychopathic guy. He's about to cry. Because he's actually bonded with these people. He got back a little bit of his humanity on this cruise. This hell cruise. And he almost lost himself. He almost cried. Man. Very somber scene. On that note, guys, I'm going to have to break the recording up again real quick. I'll try not to spend too much time doing this, but we're at 1:44:06:07 and peace. All right, guys, we are back at 1:44:21. So, here we are, entering into the depths of hell. There's crashed planes, there's yellow smoke, there's all sorts of scary things. And our little American flag is teetering and tottering its way down the river Styx. Guy's got a nice watch, god damn. Willard's Willard's got good taste. He's like, this watch is a Rolex Datejust. It's the best watch I could buy from the military store. It'll be worth $400,000 in 30 years. So they've still got the fucking slaughtered body of Lawrence Fishburne on the boat. They're all demoralized and sort of drained. They're weakened. They're coming up on some other settlement here. What could it be? Great shot of Chef with the gun a second ago. Pointed up in the air like an arrow. The boatsman's just straight up just like shed his shirt. He's like, it's too fucking hot for this shit, man. It's like 100% humidity and it's like fucking 35 degrees. It's like, I'm not gonna wear my shirt. Fuck you. He's saying that to the director of the movie. It's like, I'm too hot. Poor Martin Sheen, look at his shoulders. He's got sunburns all over the place. God damn. Straight up looks like a scene from Fallout New Vegas or something. God damn. You are surrounded. Return. Ooh. Because the chef knows French. He's like, these guys are French. Don't start fucking firing like an idiot. We are the French. We have lived close to hell for hundreds of years. We know these woods. We know this territory. Look at Critical Theory from France from the 70s, you know. We know how to entertain demons. Come to us for some rest and repast in this dark time on this dark river. And here comes this guy, cigarette in his mouth. And he looks kind of like the guy Willard was told had gone native, but he's not. He's a different guy. Similar cheekbones. We always pay respects to the dead of our allies. You're all welcome. The French as knowledge seekers made a pretty fucking deep level Faustian bargain. If you look at their philosophy over time and you look at their culture and you look at the origins of America as a Luciferian offshoot of French rebels, which is literally what it is. Some dark shit, some weird shit. So this guy is not quite Kurtz, but he's definitely his own dude. And they give Lawrence Fishburne a nice funeral here. Straight up, I don't remember seeing this scene. Either I watched a different cut of the movie last time I watched this, or I just sort of, my eyes glazed over for this scene. But, it's pretty fucking serious. Got this guy in a white suit. Imagine trying to keep a white suit clean in the fucking jungle. Good lord. You'd need a lot of Tide pens for that task. Full American flag funeral. Fucking Charon puts on his USN cap there. Got this blonde French woman, this poor Pleiadian stranded here in this hell. She's like, oh, is that what the demons are doing? Interesting. I'll have to report that back to the Pleiades during my next astral projection trip. Picks up the ripped flag. Puts his mom's recording on him. Yeah, that's appropriate. Having to be buried here on foreign soil, man. Doesn't matter what culture you're from, if somebody dies and you have to bury them that far away from their home, it's never an easy thing. He's folding the flag in the correct fallout way to make it into a triangle. Interesting that we picked that shape. So in the Redux version, they spend a lot more time on a random island before this, fucking the Playboy hose. Hose, excuse me. And then during this part of the movie, they spend a lot more time here in this French mansion. And Willard at some point is going to ask, why the fuck are you guys staying here? You've got Vietnamese servants, you've got tons of food, but you're constantly under attack. What the fuck is wrong with you? And the French go, well, we're French. What the fuck did you expect? We're not going to give up our territory. We're not going to give up something that we've claimed. Very stubborn, dark kind of mentality. And again, they're acting like they're in France. They're acting like they're in Europe. They're in the middle of the jungle. And they've got this facade of lies. It's like a psychic field, energy field around their little French manor house here. And they're so stubborn and obstinate, they're so committed to this bullshit that they're like, yeah, I'm going to have 10 kids here and raise my family, and soon all of Cambodia will be French, you know? That's the fantasy underneath all this shit. And it's nuts. It's nonsense. It's like, go back to France. How about you make France better? Make France great again by being there. Why are you all the way over here other than some sort of ancient, stubborn, psyop mind virus bullshit? Why have you dragged your entire lineage, your whole bloodline, to this alien planet? What the fuck's the point? Why not stay on your home planet, man? Why not stay in France? It's, again, the more you watch this movie and the longer you watch it, the more times you watch it, you start to sympathize with Willard because he's seeing things the way you are seeing them. He's an analog for the viewer, like all great protagonists are. He has to serve that function. What's great about this movie is he doesn't just serve that single function. He functions as his own character. But in scenes like this, the rawness of the meta aspect of the movie is on full display. You know, they've got tons of food. They've basically got slaves, Vietnamese slaves. You can dress that term up however you like. Butlers, servants, whatever. Willard's laughing. He's like, this is madness, man. How long can you possibly stay here? He's like, how retarded are you? He goes, we'll stay forever. And Willard's like, you can't be serious. You've got to go back to France. And this guy's like, this is our home. And the Pleiadian's like, don't embarrass us. He says, you don't understand our mentality. This is Willard encountering another culture. White-skinned Europeans, but their culture's totally different than his. He says, I won't lose again. The meme of France losing every war. He's like, I will hold on to this piece of earth to the death. So in a sense, this French guy has adopted the Vietnamese mentality in the same way Kurtz has. He's a little more sane, but he's still cracked. He's still nuts. He's still like, we have to be so stubborn. that we have to become a little bit like the insurgents in the jungle. But we still have cigars and fancy glassware and fancy food, you know. We've kept the French way of life. The VCs say go away. He goes, they want you all out of here. He's right. He's like, they don't want any of us here. You got to realize that truth in order to fight it. If you don't know the truth, and he cracks an egg, the white of the egg. Good God, what a crazy ass racist bit of symbolism there. Makes me feel guilty for being a guy who likes egg whites. Egg whites are good. They're high protein, low fat, and they have more vitamins than the yolk. The yolk also tends to absorb the toxins from the chickens if they're not free range. So unless you're eating free range eggs or eggs from some little, you know, Hutterite or Mennonite or otherwise Luddite leaning farming group, your eggs are probably contaminated. They're probably all contaminated, but they're less contaminated. So you shouldn't eat the white. Again, this is made in the late 70s, and it's, you know, even the symbolism, even the minutia, the nuances of the symbolism are still relevant. Even this guy's racist metaphor with the egg white, you know, the dietary truth of that is why the metaphor holds up. That's why the metaphor still makes sense. And he says the women were convinced to support the Viet Cong. He's implying that women are soft-brained and feminism supports the destruction of the society that allowed it to exist in the first place. Very, very dark red pill type of shit. It's dark but also red, kind of like the French wine that they're all drinking. Isn't that interesting? Some Colonel Sanders ass motherfucker in the background's like, I'm sure we can make it work here. The communists at home have never been traitors. It's like, no, they were just useful idiots. Now they're arguing over what the difference between a socialist and a communist is. From Willard's perspective, they're in the middle of a war zone. This poor Pleiadian is trapped here. She's kind of looking at Willard like, could you save me from these retards? No, probably not. But still, it's interesting to see you. Again, it's like academics. They're like, oh, socialist is a better way of organizing society. No, communist is. No, capitalist is. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever's better is whatever works in the moment, which is whatever's used. Underneath everything, your society might be totally different than what you're told it is. It's just a performance. It's just an illusion. Colonel Sanders is like, now hold on there, my dear. I'll take you upstairs for some nice heart attack inducing KFC. You drink from the fat fryer directly. That's the French way. It's not Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's Kentucky French Chicken. That's how we do it here. And so again, he says, you guys are fighting a war that's worthless. Like, what do you stand to gain as a country? You're fighting for an ideal. Is the ideal your God? Is the ideal giving you an equivalent boon for the deaths? And in that case, he's right. This creepy French insane guy who somehow survived in this wilderness, he's not wrong. And Willard knows it. That's why he doesn't respond. And this Pleiadian woman just stares at him. She says, I apologize for my family. We've lost a lot here. eyes, my God. She's looking right at the camera like Willard did during the Nal Trang scene at the beginning of the movie. She's staring right at you. She's talking to you. And she goes, "You're hollow, man. You're so tired." It's the same in the eyes of the soldiers of our war. What does she call them? The lost soldiers. And she goes, "You're obviously an alcoholic, but I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to say, I'll give you some cognac." He goes, "No." He's like, "I got to get out of here. This is another trap." The creepy thing about this, if you interpret it as a journey through hell, Willard is recognizing that everything he's seeing here, the French family, the Pleiadian chick, the cognac, everything, it's a temptation to get him to stall, to stay. And he goes, "No, I just want fuel to keep going. That's all I need. All I need is just enough to keep going, and I'll keep going." Willard goes, "I don't drink wine." He's a whiskey guy. He's an American. The fact that our character and the actor, both of whom are alcoholics, are refusing it in this scene is significant. It means a lot. He's like, "I use alcohol, but not in the way you use it." And Willard's already sort of accepted. He's like, "I'm too far gone. I don't think I can ever go back to America. I don't think I can live there. Not after this." So he says, "No." God, the view from this balcony. Good Lord, man. This is the most opulent shit. Straight up, I don't remember this conversation. I must have been literally or figuratively asleep when I watched this. And she says, "I used to spike my husband's pipe with morphine because he was addicted to it from being a soldier." Fucking Willard, his face looks babyish in this scene. Again, he's with this mother figure. She's wearing all red. The scene is lit with a very red tone. It's basically an opium pipe. He said, "I don't know whether I'm an animal or a god." And she's absolutely right. You are both. Willard wouldn't drink, but he's going to smoke some opium. And again, this French patriarch guy who owns this estate, who manages it, he's really close to Kurtz, but he's maintained enough sanity to keep a house. Sucking the long wooden dick of opium. Ah, yes. She's sort of revitalizing him for his final journey into hell. She's like, "You're still alive, man. Your heart's still beating, even though Martin Sheen had 2 heart attacks." She's like, "You're still going. You're still making this film." The unintentional meta aspects of this are nuts. They're crazier than anything that's actually in this movie. Watch the documentary. I think it's called Hearts of Darkness. Whatever the title is, the documentary about the filming of this film. And she shows her tits to him, but in a veiled way. She's like, well, you didn't want the second hit of opium, meaning you refused my implicit request to fuck. So I'm just gonna leave you under the veil, You resisted temptation. You took a little bit of opium, but you didn't fuck me. So I'm just gonna leave you here in your little crib. And Martin Sheen's like, yeah, that's fine. I really just want to get to Kurtz. Like, he's like, that's really my only goal here. And she's high as fuck. He touches her face, but through the veil. There's one aspect of you that kills, and one that loves. Duality, binary crap, blah, blah, blah. It's not as if the loving side of you can kill and the killing side of you can love. That's what Kurtz reveals, because he's rejected the binary completely. These French people have not done that. They're going nuts. They're descending towards where Kurtz is, psychologically, but they haven't quite gotten there yet. Maybe they never will. Maybe that's for the best. But Kurtz, in a minute, he reveals that he's finally broken out. He's gone beyond. And now they're in a thick fog. Lance is high out of his mind, of course. Willard's like, oh man, I can tell he's close. I can sense his psychic field, man. I can fucking feel him. And they start shooting arrows at them. It's not even bullets now, but they're so far gone, man. They're so deep. They're so removed from what they know. Willard's like, don't even bother shooting at them, man. Lance puts a fucking arrow hat on his head. It's like one step away from like a beer chugging hat, This guy's a fraternity fuck way out of his depth. Finally, our boatman is like, you have no experience with this. You've never been this deep. You've never been to this level of hell, have you? And he loses it. And then we have a scene, exactly the same scene happens in Heart of Darkness, where one of the characters gets pierced with an arrow, and he just looks at our main character and he goes, a spear. Like the spear of destiny. Very epic. And Willard at this point, he's not crying, he's not losing his cool, but he understands the significance of this death. He's like, the guy tries to kill him at the last minute. He's like, how dare you be the author of my death? Puts a hand on his face. That's an improvement to the Joseph Conrad original, this scene. That's why this movie is so nuts. It has the balls to look at Heart of Darkness and go, we can do better. That's insane. That's like taking Hamlet and being like, we can do better. Like, we could take the script of Hamlet and edit it and make it even better. That's madness, and this movie succeeds. In the rare instances where it does shit like we just saw with that scene, the blocking, what happens, that's unprecedented in media. It's very difficult to pull that off. This movie could have been a cornball nightmare if even one of those scenes had failed, but none of them do. Because Coppola damn near killed himself making this movie. He was on coke the whole time. His wife wrote it like a diary about how she was like really worried about him. Like, watch the documentary about how this movie was made. It's a hell of a thing. Gives him like a baptismal death. Good God, man. And Chef, as cracked as he is like, we should probably stay on the boat. We should probably stay on the path. If you're going to go to hell, even for a tour, don't stray from the tour guide's path. He's not wrong. It's good advice. So they keep going. Everything we're seeing looks more like hell. Burning buildings, dark jungles, unmarked graves. It's all just nightmarish. Human skulls on sticks. Again, this is like some Fallout shit. That's why I love the game Fallout. It's even Fallout 76. Straight up, on a tangent, Fallout 76 is a lot more like New Vegas than Fallout 4 is. It has its flaws, for sure. But the gameplay loop and the general atmosphere of it feels a lot more like New Vegas to me than Fallout 4. Fallout 76 is good now. Because they ironed out the game-breaking bugs, which were egregious and stupid and should never have been allowed to exist, now that they've had enough time to get rid of them, it's a very fun game to play. I'll say it. I've been putting hours into it. It's good. If you want to live this movie in a way that's thematically the same, play Fallout 76. It's very good. It's better than I thought it would be. I gave it a chance. I'm glad I did. You know, rolled the dice, took a gamble. It was worth it. It's a good game. And then we have the epic, ancient Olmec face. If you look up the Olmec heads, O-L-M-E-C, heads, that's what these sculptures are based on. And most of them, if not all, were made for this movie. They are not original. But the design and the look of them is far from original. It's very ancient. It's a kind of cheeky South American or South Asian equivalent of a Greek statue. It's the same type of object, made for a different purpose, in a different context, for a different culture. That's why it's so creepy. And then they come upon Kurtz's compound. And all these thralls, these drones, they've all painted themselves with some kind of white clay or white bark substance. And they just let them through. They're like, you survived all the trials, the epic trials of the path. Now, you are allowed an audience with Satan. You've gone to the final level of hell. Congratulations. And unfortunately, guys, I'm going to have to end the recording here for a sec. I will come back as soon as I can. We were at 2:14, 43, 44, 45. And just like that, we are back. I swear this is the last recording. I didn't realize this movie was a full 3 hours long. So yeah, kind of drains my stamina to be talking rapidly and thinking and watching and doing all sorts of shit at once. Really tests the limits of my undiagnosed ADHD. So, we have this weird line from some random guy. He says, "It's all right, it's all been approved." As if there's a kind of bureaucratic structure even in this insanity. Just has a different mask on. And the mask looks like this. Pretty chaotic mask, but it is a mask. The irony is that Kurtz, in trying to escape the bureaucratic top-down system of the military, all he's done is made his own system, and it's just a dark echo of the same one he was trained in. It's no different, it's no more rebellious, it just has a more grotesque visage to it. Because his version of a narrative or a story or a performance is to have bloody corpses hanging everywhere to scare you. Just some guy's ass. That poor guy, he's obviously rigged up in some kind of body thing, and they were like, "You're gonna have to show your full ass. Are you okay with that?" And he was like, "Yes, I'm getting paid. I'm fine with it." So, "You're going to play hanging corpse number 6. There are a total of 6 in this scene, and your ass is going to be rotating right in the middle of the camera." And so Wood's like, "Who the fuck are these people?" And this weird, hippie, crazy, cracked schizo guy is like, "They're soldiers, man." It's fucking Dennis Hopper.
These are his children, man. I'm a cracked hippie, man. I did too much LSD in the 60s. I got my mind wiped by the CIA, and now I'm here in a jungle. They got lots of girls in there, man. There ain't no age of consent out here. It's like, I'm really looking forward to killing you. He's a poet warrior, man. He hypnotized us with his vampire language powers, and now we're all his little drones, his thralls, his little slaves. He's made a micro-society to rebel against society, against the idea of society. So he made his own. Isn't that a gross contradiction and just an indicator of pure insanity? No, man, you're just not a poet like me.
This movie's so cracked, man. This movie's insane. Starts quoting poetry. He's like, "I'm a reporter, I take pictures." Yeah, for who, you jackass? For yourself to jack off to in the dark? No one's seeing your pictures. The irony is this guy used to be a journalist before he went nuts, before Kurtz hypnotized him into insanity. He used to share his work, share his pictures. Now he just takes, look at him, he's got 4 fucking cameras hanging off of him, in case one of them breaks. Humidity will break cameras, by the way. It's true. If things get too hot and humid, the lenses will warp and the camera's fucked. Or at least the lens is fucked. Which is the most expensive part of the fucking camera.
And the guy's like, "He was so honest, man."
It's like, so you liked him because he was nuts. And you were so bored of sanity that you thought, I'm going to go for an insane guy. I'm going to serve an insane guy. Sounds really cool. Man, these guys would be so diseased with all these fucking corpses hanging around, man. How long have they been there? Not long, apparently, because they're not rotting, but holy fuck, these guys would all have died of dysentery 6 months before Willard got here. There just would have been a bunch of stinking corpses and maybe 1 or 2 guys left. I don't know, maybe they've all just leveled up their disease resist. They can drink any water. They have the lead belly perk from Fallout. They can resist disease. And here we see good old Willard. He's locking eyes with his failed clone, the guy the military sent in to try to kill Kurtz. Literally has blood on his hands. Bit much in the scene, a bit obvious, but, the whole area's drenched in blood. I'll give him that. I'll forgive him that. And Willard's basically like, "Okay, so you failed your mission." And this fucking lapdog schizo guy is making excuses for Kurtz. Like, sometimes he goes too far and decapitates people and then leaves their heads on display. But 2 days ago, he had a moment of sanity. That excuses this. And the chef is like, "Are you fucking kidding me, man?" It's like, nah, man, he's on a vision quest. You can't talk to him now. He's in the jungle doing ayahuasca again, which totally isn't just a demonic, fake enlightenment. It's totally real, guys. The machine elves are totally real. It's not just a bunch of horse shit. It's not just a shamanistic mind control tactic. So that the shaman, as a person, as a normal guy, as a scam artist, can sit in his tent and have food and whores brought to him periodically by his hypnotized idiot followers. Shamanism's totally legit, guys. You should totally drive yourself insane with drugs. That's totally real. The hanging guy finally snaps. He's like, thank God my back hurts. Some DP guy pulls him out of the water. It's okay, that wasn't supposed to happen, but you know what? It's great. We'll keep that shot in the scene. I'm sure Coppola will want that shot. He's just doing coke in the trailer right now, but I'm going to tell him about the shot. Don't worry. I know you just broke your ankle falling into the water and hitting it on a rock, but they'll keep it. Don't worry. I like the guy with the palm leaves, man. He's got the riz. He's the one I'd invite back to my tent at the end of the day. Be like, you're signaling with those palm leaves, aren't you, my friend? You know, looks like a 2024 fashion show candidate with that fit. God damn, man. It's flamboyant shit. I didn't realize you could get that flamboyant just with palm leaves, but that motherfucker proved me wrong in that shot. You really can take it all the way. And he's like, Chef, just stay the fuck on the boat, like you were repeating when you were having a panic attack. Stay the fuck on the boat. I'll do all the crazy shit. You'll be safe here. This totally isn't a setup for something bad happening to you in about 10 minutes. Just stay here. You'll be fine. It's not like Kurtz's army are all assassins and jungle warriors and could just sneak in here and touch your neck or the tip of your toe with a poisoned frog dart and you die in your sleep. It's not like they're that good. Just stay on the boat. And so again, the code is almighty, a religious code here. The code for the judgment of God to come down in the form of human-made munitions, bombs, firebombs, etc. Two kids sitting on top of a ruined tank or a boat. It's a boat. That's the boat, probably, of the guy who preceded Willard. And these kids are just squatting on top of it in the rain. I guess after a while, you wouldn't even care about the rain. I was going to say they should be getting out of the rain. It's like, why would they care? You know, this is their life. They were born in this village, probably, a couple years ago. They're like, rain is normal, man. Like, it'd be weird if it wasn't raining. You take them to Arizona, they'd fucking go insane. They'd be like, where's the rain? I want to die. This isn't normal. And now, everything gets turned topsy-turvy, as above so below. Willard's head is in the mud. He's been plunged into the silt at the bottom of the Mariana Trench because he's about to go meet a Vampiroteuthis Infernalis motherfucker who has psychically possessed a human body and is really freaked out by terrestrial life. Now, straight up for some quick lore, Coppola wanted Brando to lose weight for this, and Brando was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And then he ate 500 Big Macs right before flying out to the set, and Coppola was like, what the fuck, man, you weigh like 350 pounds, how the fuck am I supposed to film this? So they had to film him in shadow. But, like everything else in this movie that didn't work and failed, Coppola is such a fucking Chad that he turned it into a better shot than he would have had. If Kurtz was supposed to be emaciated or supposed to be in sight, it wouldn't have been as good as this. He's just in the dark. And it would make sense that he's fat, because everybody in this fucking cult of his would have been bringing him food constantly. And he's just sitting around reading poems and whatever. Of course you'd get fat. It actually makes more sense that his whole tribe would be thin, and he'd be a fat ass. And of course, the way it's lit, he kind of looks muscular in a way too, so, you know. Got a nice Dracula shot of his ear there and his bald head. Straight out of Bram Stoker right here, this shot. And he's rambling about some memory, which sounds poetic, but it doesn't really matter in the context of the story, because he's feverish. He's having fever dreams because malaria comes back over and over again. I have a family member who caught it in Vietnam. That's not a joke. And it keeps coming back on the poor guy. And he gets crazy, high fevers for days. Because malaria is a parasite that mosquitoes spread. It's not a virus or bacteria, which we know a lot about how to fight in the West. We've conquered viruses and bacteria. Oh, but you haven't conquered the much larger, more obvious organisms that are everywhere. The fucking parasites. You parasites. It's almost like you don't want to conquer them because maybe you're infected with them, you fucks. Let's give another 20 billion to fake cancer research so that we can avoid finding a cure, instead of giving a fraction of that to parasite killing research. Why do you think when people in the States took ivermectin during COVID that a bunch of them went on Twitter and freaked out because they shat out worms? They had no symptoms, they had no signs, no doctor told them they were infected. It's because those fuckers hide, man. The eggs hide, the oocysts hide in your tissues. They hide from your own immune system. This character he has malaria. He's infected with parasites. Maybe they're what's driving him nuts. Maybe it wasn't the epic trauma that he suffered. Maybe that's an excuse. It's just something he's obsessing over. Because he's nuts. What made him nuts? Maybe his brain is full of malaria worms. Not maybe. In the scene, it's implied that it is. Malaria is in your blood forever, man. It's no joke. It's one of the worst demons you can be possessed by. Again, ancient cultures knew this. They just called parasites demons. Replace the word demon in every religious text you've ever read with the word parasite. Literal parasite, not a fantasy magical thing. A literal animal that infects you. It's just a biological thing, which means there's a biological cure for it that we are tragically avoiding in the West. This should be as routine as a flu shot, that you get an anti-parasite shot. You know, if we're going to go the bureaucratic social medicine route in whatever country we're in, why not give people periodic anti-parasite drugs? Why not? We do it in our diet all the time. Spices like coriander, things like fucking almost anything we add to meat, pepper, coriander, etc. Coffee is anti-parasite. All these drugs are integrated into our diet, but nobody talks about it. It's like it's some creepy secret. It's almost like the people keeping the secret don't want you to cleanse yourself because you'll gain 20 IQ points after a couple weeks of cleansing yourself. It's almost like you'll actually wake the fuck up. You'll be actually woke, not fake woke. And maybe that's dangerous. Maybe we're not ready to be that awake. Maybe people get too smart. People get too energetic. Maybe they go crazy in another way because they're so used to being an infected, walking corpse, Dark Souls hollow, that when you actually give them a grain of health, of real health, they just go nuts in a different way. Who knows, man? Who the fuck knows? This movie is so ahead of its time in all the little details that it summons up, all the little implications that it makes with what drives people nuts. Kurtz was totally cool. He probably saw a bunch of crazy shit. And in this movie, there's one particular thing that he saw that supposedly drove him insane. Maybe when he saw that sight that he'll describe in a bit, he was also contracting malaria at the same time. And maybe it was the fever of the malaria infection that made him overvalue that experience in his mind. Maybe that was a factor. I don't think anybody's ever advanced that theory. You got to come to my channel for the real madman theories here. Remember to like and subscribe. Give me a little bit of water out of a coconut. That is what happens when you subscribe or like my videos. You are giving me, in my little cage, a puff of a cigarette and a drink of rainwater collected in a coconut. That's what you're doing when you like and subscribe. I appreciate it very much.
So the guy's like, I'm so curious. Oh, yes, I'd like to take photos and show them to no one.
That's why I'm making these videos. At least if I can share these crazy takes with two people, That's enough for me, man. It's better than sharing them with no one, than becoming this freak, this idiot. The man is clear in his mind, but his soul is mad. Again, very poetic. It's like, the man is clear in his mind, but he's full of malaria parasites. The fevers are cooking his brain. They're driving him nuts, depriving him of calories. He's unhealthy, he's got vitamin deficiencies, he can't think straight. Yeah, wow, he reads poetry. It's not like anybody's ever done that for the past 4,000 fucking years. How unique. He reads poetry. Wow, man. He should be given 10 medals. You know what? The military should come pick him up. Guys, we got a poet on our hands. He's real useful. Let's put him in front of the troops to read poems. I mean, that's what propaganda is, man. Propaganda is a type of poem. But in the context of this, the joke I'm trying to make is Kurtz is just nuts. He's not coherent. And he's making excuses. He's angry at himself for not sharing his photos. That's the subtext of this. He's like, am I going to be the one to red pill the masses? No, it'll be you. I don't know what kind of coconut liquor this guy's been drinking, but it's not going to be any of them. After this experience, at the beginning of the movie, you'll remember, if you're paying attention, that Willard, in his omniscient narrator voice, in the voiceover, was saying, everyone gets everything he wants. They gave me a mission, and it was a real choice mission, almost like it was designed to fuck with me, personally. Because it kind of was, because they looked at his personality profile, his psych evaluation, they said, that general guy in the trailer was like, this guy's he's the last candidate we have left that could possibly kill Kurtz. So in a way, the mission was literally tailored for him. Not in a conspiratorial way, in a literal way. And he said, after I got this mission, I would never want another. This was it for him. He was done after this. After going this deep, he's like, I'm out. And we have this wonderful foreboding scene. He's tied up near a fire, so he's not too cold. He's not going to die of, hypothermia or some shit. He's close enough to the fire, but he's all tied up. And they've been starving him. He's got bloodshot eyes. And Kurtz has painted himself like a military clown to fuck with this guy. He's just fucking with him. And he says, look, I'm a soldier. I'm you. I'm what you are. You are a military clown performer on a stage. Yes, you kill people for real, but this type of warfare in the West is a performance. It's a clown show. It's pathetic. The facade of humanitarianism. Well, we're going to kill people, but we'll do it humanely. And Kurtz goes, there's your humanity right there. I killed your innocent little friend hiding on the boat. And Willard breaks here. He can't believe it. He's like, not Chef, man. This guy, he didn't even want to be here. And now he was the one I told the codes to. Now we're fucked. Now we're really fucked. Because Lance the Surfer's just high out of his mind. He doesn't give a shit about anything, The LSD is definitely worn off for old Lance the Surfer at this point, but he's just vibing. He doesn't care, He's naturally high. He doesn't need drugs. He's naturally an idiot. So finally this guy's, they've forced him to fast for a couple days. His body's probably eaten a bunch of the protein-based parasite cysts in his system, and he's now a little bit more awake, despite being physically weak. Mentally he's probably very hyper-aware. His body's in starvation, human grug hunting mode, where you pass a certain threshold of not eating something, and he has no appetite as well. You lose your appetite, but also you get very awake. You get very aware of things. It's like an adrenaline rush, but it's more consistent. It's not like caffeine, but it's similar when you go on a fast. It gives you a big burst of energy because your body is fighting to provide you with what it needs to live. But Kurtz doesn't want to kill this guy. He wants to convert him to his little creepy jungle religion with women of dubious age kneeling in the dusty dark. Another tidbit of lore, these temples were built by like $2 a day laborers for this movie. So the irony again, the movie literally became a Kurtz-like force because it mobilized all these people to be extras and to literally build the sets. Like they carved stone blocks and stacked them. Watch the documentary Hearts of Darkness. It's fucking crazy what they went through for movies back in the day. Like, I think movies now are so different than what these are. They shouldn't even be called movies or films. They should be called something else. Because they're so removed from this. Nobody does this. There's the odd indie filmmaker who, James Wan finds a haunted house and he uses a few props, but he still uses tons of CGI and all sorts of crap. Good for him. He's making things on a shoestring budget that make hundreds of millions. That's good. Not shitting on the guy, but did he go to another country and spend 5 years and tens of millions of dollars and nearly kill one of his actors and borderline enslave the population to build the fucking set? Did he do that? No? Well, it's not a film then. Sorry, but the standard is too high and it will never be dragged down. Movies like this, man, they just don't get made anymore. Dune's the closest thing. I saw the sequel, Dune 2. It was very good. It's full of CGI, but it's used well. I can't fault it for looking good. And so he's talking about dialectics here. This guy's a Hegel drone. He's read too much Hegel. And Hegel is one of those philosophers, depending on your perspective, he either completely ruined philosophy from the point on when he made his dark contribution to it, or he saved it from complete irrelevance. I'm on the fence. I haven't read enough of his stuff to really make a judgment, so I'm just going to not say anything about that personally. But what this movie's saying is, it's talking about dialectics. And if you recall earlier in the movie, the basic problem that Willard's character has is that he's encountered an other. He's encountered another culture that functions differently. And it's caused him to question his own culture. That's normal. That's a normal human response if you have an IQ above room temperature. And that's a dialectic response because you're seeing the world in terms of two things. It's me or them. In reality, it's 50 things. There's a whole bunch of other thems, and they don't all unite against you. Everybody's got their own fucking direction. It's almost like individualism makes the most sense because it's the most true. It's the most real thing. The most oppressed group is the individual, which isn't a group, it's just a person. But my point is, if you take something like, for example, identity politics to its extreme, it's a horseshoe. You end up right back next to the libertarians. Those people are still right in a way. They're just wrong in how they exercise their recommendations for societal reform. Because everybody's wrong. No one knows the whole truth. We have to cooperate. We have to figure shit out. It's a long and painful process. This movie is showing you what happens when you try to take shortcuts. And both these characters, in their Nietzschean willpower type of way, said, I'm going to go straight down to hell and break out the other side. But then when they did, they realized they brought hell back with them. Now it's part of them forever. They can never be the same again. They can never see the world the same way. They've lost a piece of their soul, if not the whole thing. In Kurtz's case, he's pretty much lost the whole thing. And here's the famous scene, lifted straight out of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, talking about the horror. And I think Brando upstages Conrad. I think this sequence in this movie is better than Joseph Conrad's equivalent sequence that inspired it. I think it's actually better. So he's pointing out what the weakness with the U.S. military is they're not hardened enough. If every single soldier, every single grunt was like a Navy SEAL, was trained in that way, if all the soldiers were that hardcore and could, eat raw meat and stand in the ocean for 14 hours, doing an ice bath, if any of that shit's even real, you can make fake ice cubes out of silicone and put a guy in a tank of lukewarm water and make it look like he's freezing. That's trivial to fake that. Way more easy to fake that a bunch of times than to actually filter society to find the psychos who are actually able to do that. And so Kurtz is talking about this village. He's like, we went and vaccinated some kids for polio. And the elders of the village chopped off the vaccinated arms. You anti-vaxxers out there, if you want to really be an anti-vaxxer, do this. That's not a recommendation. But, that is the hardcore version of that mentality. And he says, I was so emotional about it, My humanity was on full display. I cried not like a woman, like a grandma. Pathetic, weak, just reduced to dust, like emotionally ruined. And then he has an interesting line here, and note what he does with his finger. He says it was like I was shot with a diamond bullet through my forehead where your pineal gland is, which crystallizes like a diamond. He says my pineal gland woke up. And I had a revelation. I realized if we don't want to just play games forever and actually want to win a war, we have to lower ourselves or change ourselves, whatever you want to call it. And he's having a moment. Unlike Willard, he saw these people positively. He said, here's what their strengths are. And he's not disturbed by it, he's impressed. Willard is disturbed in the first scene of this movie in the hotel room when he talks about they're squatting in the bush and getting stronger. He's bothered by them. He's crying as Kurtz tells him this. He's dabbing his eyes. We've never seen this side of Willard till this scene because he's realizing Kurtz is right. He's recognized not the dangers of his enemy, of the other, but their merits, their strengths, their power. And he said, I want us to use that same power. The power to still be a loving father at home and not give in to PTSD and beat your wife and become a drunk and end up on the street. The power to use love to kill. To actually love your family for real. Enough to go and butcher for them. Enough to cut off your own son's arm because you think he's been infected with some Western voodoo. Because you love him. You're not doing that maliciously because you hate the West. Fuck the West. I'll cut off my kid's arm. That's not where the impulse comes from. It's not an impulse that's born of hatred. It's born of love. That's what Kurtz has realized. And it drove him nuts. And Martin Sheen, looking at his hand in this scene, the hand that cut into the mirror, the hand that punched the mirror. And here we have Kurtz standing in a doorway that looks like a mirror. It's a vertical, bright, monochrome shape. Kurtz is Willard's mirror. And now, perfectly, as I say that, of course, we have the scene I talked about earlier where they butcher the cow. This is the mirror of the scene in Nha Trang where they're eating the beef. It's not that it's worse. It's not that it's better. It's just different. But it's the same process. A bunch of people gathered together for a dinner ritual. That's all it is. It's just way different. And here we have the surfer The good soul, the real Christ figure is this guy who just comes in and says, I'll just sit down and be calm and receptive and gentle and generous, and I'll do what you do. I'll do your rituals with as much respect as I can. And I'll fit in, I'll morph, I'll be mutable. I'll be a mutable soul. And so he's able to keep his soul intact. He may be nuts. Who knows? We don't get many scenes with him after this. But now we cut back to Willard. The bombers are trying to get a hold of him. They're like, do you want us to blow you up? We have your coordinates. And he's like, they were going to make me a major for this, for solving their little embarrassing problem of killing this guy. But I'm not going to do it. Not for them. Not to become some pawn. And what makes this movie so genius is we really don't know what Willard's final choice actually is. We know what he does, but we don't know who he becomes afterwards. The movie leaves that totally open. Even the jungle wanted him dead, and that's who he took his orders from. He's still taking orders. Here's the famous scene of him coming up out of the swamp. He's like, Kurtz, you want to parody me for being in the military? Fine, I'll put the makeup on too. Ooh, look at me. You scared me so much by killing my friend. That definitely demoralized me enough to not kill you. That definitely demoralized me enough to not complete my mission. Or did it? Your poetry made me cry. That was real. Did that still save you? I don't know. We'll have to see. Spoiler alert, guys, he does actually kill Colonel Kurtz in this. I don't know if you've seen this before. I'm assuming you have. And you know, Kurtz is spouting some random shit, kind of like I do on my channel here. He's on the radio. But he doesn't have age restriction on, he doesn't have any parameters or tags. This is just being broadcast to whoever can pick it up. Very chaotic. You know? If only Colonel Kurtz had had a YouTube channel, we might have been able to save him. We train young men to drop fire on people, but we won't allow them to write fuck on their airplanes because it's obscene. Wow, have we rubber banded back from that, man. You can have a kid-friendly video and say fuck after the first 3 minutes and YouTube doesn't give a shit. But there's other stuff you can't do. They've just rotated the verboten things, you know. I hope it's in the name of some grand plan for social stability that I don't understand. I really hope that's the case. I hope it is. So if it's not, we're going to see a lot more of this in the near future. You're going to see scenes like this right outside your front door like it's Fallout 76, 25 years after the bombs. You're going to see some wild shit. Not in a fun way. Willard's like, you didn't want a clean execution. You wanted a bloody, gory death. Just like this cow. You really want to go down that way, man? Fine. I'll perform that death to you. God, look at the shit blooming out of the intestines as they cut it there. Jesus Christ. Maybe don't eat that part of the cow meat. It might be somewhat contaminated. I'm going to say it. Maybe avoid that. Throw the flank away and eat whatever's above it. If I get to choose a steak, could I have something that's like near the shoulder of the cow? I'd prefer that. I think there's less chance of me getting E. coli and dying. And then here's the epic scene. You know, horror was his god. That was the aesthetic he was going for. That was the way he wanted to play the game. And so he got to play however he wanted. He got exactly what he wanted. That's the irony here, is it's like supposed to be a tragic death. This is exactly the death Kurtz wanted. Willard says it. He just wanted to go out like a soldier. And then this woman's sort of bowing. It's like, if you are the new Kurtz, I will suck your dick. You are younger and thinner than him, so I will not be as repulsed. That's something they'll make in 2034. They'll make an alternate version of this movie where it's just all about that woman who serves Kurtz. She tries to kill him like 6 times and fails. Then Willard shows up. Then she eventually kills Willard. We'll call it Apocalypse Wow, the sequel to Apocalypse Now. Dare they have the audacity to make a sequel to it? Yes, they will, and it'll suck ass, but people will go see it just to hate watch it and complain about it. Apocalypse Wow, starring a female concubine of Kurtz. Coming to theaters 2034. Buy your tickets now. Pre-order them now in 2024. Make a comment on this video, and I'll make sure you get a ticket, guys. I'll make sure you get a ticket to Apocalypse Wow. I know a guy who knows a guy who's already making that film. It's already in production, actually. They have to start these things ahead of time, because there's a bunch of new CGI and AI regulations in the 2030s, so when you make a movie, it takes a lot longer, but it looks exactly like this. It's almost like all the media we're seeing that's supposedly from the past could have been made in the future and sent back in time. We have no fucking idea. Once AI gets past the point of photorealism, how do you know anything you're seeing is from the time that the people making it claim it's from? Who knows when it's really from? Were you there when it was filmed? Were you on set? If you were, or you know somebody who was, fine, okay, that thing you saw was real. What about everything else? Ooh. Sorry, guys. Lance the Surfer gave me some LSD. That's where that train of thought came from. The guy really can surf, I will say that. Now he comes out with a sword and a book. It's like a Statue of Liberty, Dark Christ kind of figure. His face is painted. They're all bowing down to him. Well, you killed our leader. That means you're the new leader. You gonna hang out with us here? You gonna revel in the jungle of hell, the corrupted Garden of Eden? And now's the real moment. Willard's like, I get it. This could all be mine. And in the same way, going back home and saying, I killed Kurtz, that could also be another version of this, where I get a bunch of thralls under me and I get to be in a position of power for the rest of my life. In either position, there's people trying to kill you. If you're a general, you're in a high enough position that you probably have to have security in certain cases, right? But he throws down the sword. He says, I don't want to be the king of rebels, and I don't want to be the king of kings. I don't want any of it. And I'll give you my theory as we inch toward the end of the movie here about what Willard actually does. I think I know what he does. People are just copying him. They're like monkeys. One monkey cracks a walnut open with a rock. Every other monkey does it. He puts down his weapon. They all put down their weapons. He grabs Lance and says, come on, you're the only other whitey in here. You don't belong here, man. You got a white mama at home waiting for you to go win some more surfing trophies. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get off this alien planet. Come back home. I'll drag you back. And we see the boat leaving. And I mean, this is like, it's like God leaving the West in a Nietzschean sense. We were so manic in our worship that God was like, I can't even be here as a metaphor or an idea or a concept. I was here physically in the past and did miracles. That was a mistake. Then I said, well, maybe I'll just exist as an idea. You guys can't even handle me as an idea. So fine, go fuck yourselves. Go rot in the jungle. If you don't even want me as an idea, if you can't even handle me as an idea without splitting into factions, manipulating each other, killing each other, taking advantage of each other, lying to each other constantly, building a whole society that's dependent on lies or it collapses, that's transcendentally heinous. Your whole society needs to lie to itself and other societies just to fucking exist? You're not telling one story, you're telling 300 million stories? To such an excess. I mean, it's nuts, man. So there you have it. That's Apocalypse Now. In a different version of this movie, there's a brief scene where we see sort of fireworks in the jungle, and it's implied that Willard told them to drop the bombs on the village. I like that ending better. I think it's from the Redux version, but there may be other cuts of this movie that use it. I think there's like 3 or 4 cuts of this. I'd like to think that Willard just stayed in the village and told them to blow it up and just died. Like he sent Lance back on the boat. But Lance couldn't navigate. So Willard had to go back with him. But what he does after this, it's totally up for debate. My personal headcanon is Willard would have just died. But I think he went back and probably just resigned from the military. They probably offered him general, and he just said, Kurtz tempted me with the same shit in a jungle. You think I'm retarded? I don't want to be a vampire lord. I'd rather go live in a cabin and drink and look at nature till I'm dead. That's a far more morally pure life than being some kind of creepy, high-level stooge, That's the epic moral of this movie, guys. You should all just get drunk and live in cabins. I'm sure society will still function if you all do that at once. That's what I'm recommending all of us do, guys. Meet at my cabin for a drink for the rest of your life party and look at nature and make nothing, do nothing. Then you'll be like one of the people in the jungle. It's very epic. It depends on who you are, obviously. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie. I don't have any other closing thoughts, really. I think I've sprayed words onto the into the auditory ether, rather, enough for this particular piece of content. So all I have to say at this point is thank you very much for watching. I hope some of you enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it. It's why I do this shit. I do it to blow off steam and to try to promote things I like, even if it's just to like 3 people. I don't give a shit about the amount of people. It's quality, not quantity, I'm looking for. So, hope you're doing well in your life. Don't give in to the military or Colonel Kurtz or anybody else who's trying to fuck with you. Live your own life. Do what makes you feel fulfilled and purposeful. Happiness is a transitory thing. Don't pursue that. Pursue purpose and fulfillment. Those things are worth pursuing because they're a lot more tangible and they're a lot more permanent. Good habits, a sense of purpose, a vocation, a hobby, a trade, whatever. That's the real shit. That's real happiness. Anyway, do take your vitamins and drink your filtered water and do all the sorts of things I always recommend. Hug a family member too. And that having been said, guys, thanks again for watching. And as always, peace out.